from the broken ruins of Babylon. This is End of Days Radio. It is I, Daniel, broadcasting to you all the way from the shimmering Emerald City right here in the heart of the Pacific Northwest. Hello, how are you? How are you doing? Oh my God, it has been so long. Today's date is October 24th, 2018. Today's guest is William Ramsey. We'll talk about him in just a second. But first, I just wanted to say one thing. Did you miss me? Did you miss me? Did you miss me? How much did you miss me? Did you miss me quite a bit? I know that you did. It's been way too long. I do apologize. I had some stuff that I needed to do. I kind of like to do things that way. I like to do a buttload of shows and then just take a little time for myself. Take a break so that I can decompress and I can think about what exciting new direction I want to take things in. You get the idea, right? I needed some me time. I needed a little time to shuffle my cards and get back on the right track. And I kind of needed to do some spring cleaning around the house as well, which I hope you understand. But again, did you miss me? Did you miss your little Daniel? Did you miss that cute little guy? Did you miss him? Boop. That's me touching your nose, or touching my nose. Boop. Oh, it's good to be back. It's good to be back in these broken ruins, these cracking, crumbly, deteriorating broken ruins in this modern-day Babylon. Babylon the Great. Babylon the Bold. Babylon. Babylon is Babylon shall fall. When will that be? Perhaps we will never know or see. But we've got a show to do. This is not only the kickoff of a brand new season of End of Days Radio. A brand new season of End of Days Radio. You didn't know we had seasons, did you? You didn't know that. You didn't know that we had seasons. And we had a new theme song. Did you hear the new theme song for the new season? I hope that you did. I hope that you like it. I actually made this one. Long story. I might tell it someday. But I actually did create that. Not to pat myself on the back, but I did. I like to make music. When I first started doing the show, I was kind of new to making music, but I hope that I've gotten at least a little bit better. I've certainly taken a great deal of criticism for my music, but hey, that's how it goes. You got to keep practicing until you get good at something. I like to think I'm getting good by now. I hope I am. I hope I'm getting better at this and not worse. There's always the possibility that I'm getting worse. And if that's the case, then, well, I will just have to keep sucking. Of course I don't suck. How silly. But let's get on with the show, shall we? We've got a guest, a great guest tonight. Once again, that's William Ramsey. Our guest tonight is William Ramsey. This is his second appearance on the show. Attorney, author, and researcher William Ramsey is a graduate of the University of California, Berkeley, with a degree in history. Mr. Ramsey also has a JD and is a member of the State Bar of California. He has written Prophet of Evil, Aleister Crowley, 9/11, and the New World Order. That's one of his books. There's also Abomination, Devil Worship, and Deception in the West Memphis 3 Murders, and Children of the Beast, Aleister Crowley's Shadow over Humanity. That's the last one. The middle one was Abomination, Devil Worship, and Deception in the West Memphis 3 Murders. And then that last one again was Children of the Beast, Aleister Crowley's Shadow over Humanity. William Ramsey has also made 2 documentaries, Occult Hollywood Volume 1 and Prophet of Evil, Aleister Crowley, 9/11, and the New World Order. So let's go ahead and get him on the line.
Do you mind if I post this interview on my YouTube channels?
Oh, no, not at all. This show, it's it's completely free. We don't have any advertisers or anything. It's just to spread knowledge and, help people out. And you can totally go ahead and do that. I don't have any restrictions as far as guests reposting stuff. Now, individuals out there, I kind of don't like when you guys do that because I don't want you to profit off of my creation. This show is free, so I don't want you. Yeah, I don't want people taking a free show and then making money off of it. That kind of grinds my gears. But otherwise, it's totally cool. Yeah. But you can.
Well, I've put other people's shows on, but the money I make is less than $5 a year. It's nothing. I have 1,000 listeners, max at a time, so it's not like I make that much money.
Oh, that's not too bad. 1,000 listeners. That's a pretty good following.
Yeah, it's not bad. For an unknown person like me, not too shabby.
Yeah, a lot of people out there just have 3.
Well, I'm fortunate in that way, I guess. I'm not Alex Jones or somebody like that. So.
Yeah, we could talk about Alex all night.
We can talk about a lot of stuff. We have to catching up to do. It's been 2 years, right?
Yeah, 2 years. We did have a really excellent interview the first time around. We got very deep into it, but I should probably start off by just asking you how you've been. Is there anything currently going on that you'd like to touch on?
Well, a year ago, I finished a movie, a 3.5-hour movie that's available on Vimeo titled The Smiley Face Killers, who is abducting, torturing, and murdering young college-age men in the U.S. and U.K. So I put that out about almost a year to the day in October of last year, and I've had very good reviews. You can check out the reviews on my Vimeo page, Vimeo. Just look up Smiley Face or William Ramsey and the movie will come up. But people can rent it for $5. I think it's reasonable, or purchase it for $12. And there's tons and tons of information. But I think it's an important movie because these men have been inaccurately titled or put in a box where they supposedly accidentally drowned. And I make the case that they were meant to look accidentally drowned, but they were actually murdered. So that's the kind of gist of the whole movie. And it's a large number. It's 50. There's probably 100 to 200 cases, if not 300 of these types of cases in the U.S., U.K., and all over the world.
Could you give us kind of the whole story of how it started and how it started to come under public attention?
Absolutely. There were 2 original police officers, Duarte and Gannon, out of New York City, that noticed that there was this pattern of young men being found in water, particularly in New York. There's a lot of cases in New York. And then another professor by the name of Gilbertson, and this started happening in the 90s. So they actually put out a book called Case Studies in Forensic Drownings, which is a superb book. There were also a couple of journalists, this one girl, Christy Peel, that kind of started covering these cases, and they noticed this pattern. So they did a very forensic look into many of these cases, noticed that some of these young men, they were being abducted in college towns, and there was a high preponderance of GHB, which is an endogenous substance in the human body, but in large doses, it causes blackouts, kind of like an extreme drug state, but people become very pliable. It's also known as the date rape drug. But those guys were really the original guys. They actually just did an interview recently. I hadn't been able to contact them while I was doing the research for my film, but they were the originals, and that was really kind of the baseline. And the reason I got into what was known as the Smiley Face Killers is because I was researching Aleister Crowley, and I kept noticing the smiley face associated with a lot of these occultists. Alan Moore uses it in this Watchmen movie, and I wanted to know the meaning. I wanted to know why these people had this smiley face. I wanted to know why there was an occult meaning, because I do believe that there's a surface meaning, but there's also an occult meaning. And I think that Alan Moore actually explains it very concisely within the Watchmen comic book and movie, and that is that life is a big joke. It doesn't matter what you do. And actually, if you watch the Watchmen movie, the introductory scene consists of the murder of the comedian who went to Vietnam and killed people indiscriminately and enjoyed it. So I do believe that theme is associated with this span of killings. I do believe the people committing these crimes are thinking about it. They're not casual like lust criminals or somebody who, just commits a murder in a random way. I do believe these are planned events, and they have things figured out from the beginning and the end. So the Smiley Face Killings, there's been some excellent research. There was a book there's a website called Footprints at the River's Edge, I believe, that followed all these cases. And there's just an incredible amount of cases through multiple jurisdictions. And so what I did is I started researching, and I talked to a variety of different people who looked into these cases differently. They saw things in Boston. They saw things in New York. There was one girl called her name was Elise Soper. And you can listen to these on my YouTube channel, William Ramsey Investigates, if you're interested. But she actually made a post about the suspicious drownings that happened in Boston alone. And her blog just spiked. Everybody was interested. Like, yeah, there's something wrong here, But she saw this phenomenon from her place at Boston. She did an excellent job, and I interviewed her. But there's another guy, Gary J. out of the Manchester. They call this phenomenon the pusher. And he's putting out a documentary very soon. I think by the end of the year, I'm featured in it talking about the subject because I researched the Manchester cases and the Bristol cases, which is in kind of the southwestern part of the UK. But, so I saw little pieces, and really my chief researcher was Jim Smith, and we kind of just crossed paths probably 2 years ago as we were both researching it. And he's still researching these cases to this day, and has done a superb job kind of organizing things like that. But he also saw this pattern. So really my goal was I really just wanted to figure out, is this really happening? Are these cases legit? And after my research, I started watching these men disappear and then being found in water. And probably one of the first ones was a case by the name of Joey LaBute out of Columbus, Ohio. And he disappeared, and for 18 days nobody knew where he was. And I was following that case day after day, watching developments. And then his body was found in the Scioto River in Columbus, Ohio. And that case was actually featured on a very popular true crime podcast called True Crime Garage. And I've talked to those guys about that case in particular. But like many of these other people analyzing these suspicious water deaths, they only see, I believe they only saw the smaller picture. And my film tries to encapsulate the larger picture to show that these types of cases are happening all over kind of the Western world. And, so that was really an interesting kind of true crime. I've written another true crime book about the West Memphis Street case and my take on that case, which was not very popular. But I do think that it's an important, this what's known as the Smiley Face Killers. The reason it got its name by Gilbertson again is because they saw a correlation between these spray painted smiley faces that were close to the scenes of these crimes. And there was actually one case and it was out of Michigan, this young man, somebody put a smiley face on his gravestone 2 years after the day. So that's how this kind of phenomenon got the name Smiley Face Killers. And I actually kind of got involved saying, well, I want to discount the connection between this symbol and these cases. And I really couldn't, because they were still showing up. There was another case out of Boston by the guy by the name of Zach Marr, people found a spray painted smiley face. He disappeared out of the downtown area. He was kicked out of a bar. And so it's a very dark tale. And I do not believe, in all of the cases, I cover about 50 cases in my documentary, and I believe that every single one of those cases was somebody who was met by misadventure and did not die accidentally. Still there?
Oh, sorry, I had an audio issue in the background I had to turn off real quick.
Okay.
One thing I wanted to ask about the Smiley Face Killers, this is very perplexing, of course, and very mysterious, these smiley faces. You said they were given a drug. How could this was not a sexual thing? They weren't raped?
Well, that's a great question. I believe that is the primary motivation for these cases. So I kind of just wanted to get the word out. What's not there is any financial crimes. There's somebody doesn't go to their ATM and steal their money. So I think that if you look at the pool of the victims, they're almost all kind of they have a low body mass index. They're very generally athletic, good looking. So I do believe that they fit a type that certain predators are interested in. So that's why they're young college-age men. I believe they're college-age men because they're much more vulnerable after leaving home at 18 living out by themselves and being out late at night. So I do believe that these predators, and in different jurisdictions, hunt for these men late at night at bars, and some are drugged and some aren't. There was a case out of Boston, a guy by the name of Kelleher. He came out of a Boston Celtics game and called an Uber and disappeared. And he looked pretty good. I mean, the thing is, if you watch my movie, you can tell that a lot of these men are not stumbling drunk. Some are, but some are definitely upright. But he walked out and they pinged his cell phone going the wrong direction from his house. He was at this park called Paul Revere Park. So, that was one case that was high. And there was another case that happened nearby there called a guy by the name of Hurley. Same thing. He was waiting for his girlfriend to pick her up. And he was just sitting there on a corner and disappeared. Literally disappeared right from a ball game, and then was found in the river. Both Hurley and Keller are found in the same part of the river there in Boston. So I do believe that these are lust crimes. They're not financial crimes. And they do most of the earlier cases were all kind of white people, but I think there's been some other cases that involved, people Hispanic, people of Asian background, some African American. So it's the pool isn't specifically all, white Westerner types.
And I believe earlier you said they were tortured, right?
Well, I do believe they're held. I don't know the full extent of the torture of every individual, but there's evidence that there was a kid named Hart out of Rhode Island who clearly had signs that he was tortured. One of the earlier cases that Gannon and Gilbertson keyed in on was this young man named McNeil out of New York who was found in a water treatment facility in the south part of the Hudson Bay. And he, once the parents didn't know what happened to him, but once they got the autopsy, it showed that he had been blowtorched on the upper part of his body. I think he had chipped teeth and element of a hammer claw to his head.
Oh, man.
As if somebody took him a hammer. Yeah, so a very famous forensic pathologist by the name of, it's escaping me, but he said that it looked like he had been restrained before he was tortured, which is why the upper part of his body showed those. Cyril Wecht is he's a famous kind of forensic. He's worked on the JFK assassination. But so he looked at this case and said, look, this guy's tortured. So I do believe that many of these cases, the reason why, one of the puzzling phenomenon of these cases is these men will disappear and then there will be a massive search. There will be a search for 2-3 weeks looking. There were water teams, sniff dogs like hound dogs. And some of the hound dogs will find traces of the scent, but oftentimes these men disappear and then reappear in areas that had already been previously searched. So I do believe that abduction is a form of torture and they're kept somewhere alive for a period of time before they're murdered and then put in river. There was a case out of Pittsburgh, I believe it's 2 years ago, or last year, maybe it was 2017. His name is Dakota James, was missing for 40 days. And when they found his body, the place where they found his body had been searched the previous day. Cyril Wecht, by the way, lives in Pittsburgh. So, I got some info. Well, yeah, so that case he looked into too. So that's a hyper suspicious case. Where is the body for 40 days? Now, a normal body decomposes, when people deceased, they decompose. And oftentimes in water, they'll float to the surface or they're easily found, generally found. And where was this person, Dakota James, for 40 days? Why wasn't he found after a serious search of I think it's the Ohio River? So, and that's the same. And if you watch the documentary, I tried to emphasize that theme by looking at, all of these police officers say, we just checked there yesterday. Oh yeah, we looked for him. Why didn't we find him? There's another case out of Pennsylvania. A young man was at a bar in Manayunk. And his name escapes me right now, but he was found in 4 feet of water, but water that had been previously checked, that men had walked down and watched it. So why wasn't he found in an obvious place? So that's like the, his name was Shane Montgomery out of Manayunk, Pennsylvania. And there's a lot of cases in Pennsylvania. They're definitely hot spots. Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, New York, the college towns in the far north of Wisconsin and Minnesota. And, so it's definitely, there's been cases in Atlanta, California, Portland, a lot of cases in Portland. So this phenomenon, it's important to get that warning out if you're a younger man drinking at a bar, because women know that they could be drugged at a bar, but men are oblivious that they could be victims. And I think a lot of these men who were victims never saw it coming. They had no idea that there was a predator that was sussing them out. And there's actually been stories that have come to my attention of men telling stories being in a bar. Some guy comes up to him, starts asking questions. What's your name? Trying to get a background, like they're trying to get information on these people. And one of the interesting things about these cases is that very few, I don't think there's anybody of all these cases who was famous or had political connections, which I find, rather remarkable. So it's almost like somebody doesn't want somebody family isn't powerful to figure out what's going on. They want somebody from a middle class kind of family.
And so, do the bodies show that they had been raped?
Well, that's a great question. And I think that I don't have access to the autopsy reports. Those are family matters. It actually is hard for the families to obtain the autopsies, but there's been no real look into whether there's evidence of rape on these bodies. And I think, it's interesting. Since I put out the movie a year ago, I wrote in my summary that, here's a quote: "Federal and state authorities should assume any body of a young man found in water who had disappeared after a night out has more likely been murdered than died accidentally." So I think that was the why these cases got away with it, is that the police looked at these bodies and said, "Oh, he must have fell in the water and drowned," right? Instead of misadventure. So if their cops are looking at it that like away, an accidental drowning, not a murder, they're not going to take evidence. They're not going to look at the scene. And within the last year, some of these men who were found in water suspiciously are now, the police are actually, there was a case, where was it? I think it was Atlanta, where the cop said, "Oh, this is a very suspicious death. We're treating it as a suspicious death," which was very different than before. So I think really some of these other cases, like Joey LaBute, the police actually said, "We don't know how he got in the water." And it was interesting, Joey LaBute, when he died, he was at kind of a bar that was associated with gay bar. He was involved. He was gay. He was on some kind of dating app, like a men's dating app. So he was communicating. But on that weekend, there was a bodylifting tournament called the Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic. So there's a potential that the person who, was involved in Joey LaBute's death flew into town, crime was committed, and left.
It would have to be a pretty, well, maybe not necessarily, but it seems like it would have to be a big, strong individual.
Potentially. If you look at not all these men are huge. They're not, I would say they're more on the slighter side. So, there's a lot of ways people can get in trouble. I mean, if they're drugged, then people know they're drugged. And I've always, I thought some of these bartenders and some of these other people might be involved in these cases. So it's not outside of the realm of possibility that they get slipped a Mickey. And I include in my documentary cases where guys like woke up under the train. There was a guy who woke up in a very strange place, and they took him to court. The police did, to charge him something. He said, "Be careful and watch your drink, because I don't even know how I got there." So. These things are potentials, So, yeah.
And it really highlights the danger of something that I really try to avoid, which is going out to places like clubs and bars by yourself, because that just it turns you into a huge target, really.
Yeah, it's a great point. And a lot of these cases are associated with fetish clubs or something like that. There was one guy out of Washington, D.C., who was at a bar that sidelined is also a BDSM bar, right? So when he died, he was found upriver. His name was Arvind Sharma. It was he was a Nepalese. So he was from Nepal, kind of in the northern part of India, this country in between India and China. But he, when he was dead, his brother said something to the public. He said, "Arvind must have been somewhere or saw something he shouldn't have seen." So he was, I think that he got separated. There's a lot of these stories where somebody gets separated from their friends, they get kicked out of a bar, and then things go wrong. So there is a lot of danger. And, if you look at the documentary I made, it's in different cities, different places where this is happening. And I connect it to the kind of rise of the internet where information can be exchanged in the dark web, and the rise of kind of fetish, which have probably always been there, but fetish sites like FetLife. And if you look through, I did some research. There was a movie on Netflix called Kink. And there are sequences in there involving men where they're torturing each other with water, So if that's, I do believe that that's a important factor in all these cases. Is this
do you mean like waterboarding?
Like there's a scene that I show in my movie where there's a dude in like a bathtub and a guy standing over him and just shoving his head in the water. And it's being filmed for like like gay porn, but like just like that to me is something that could be associated easily with all these cases, is that they're pre-drowned somewhere else and then put in water.
And that's really, of course, a really good point that you bring up, because in recent years, probably the last 5-7 years, BDSM or S&M or B&D or whatever you like to call it,
Fetish,
has become super mainstream, super accepted, super mainstream, and increasingly so as years go by.
It's an interesting point, and I think that that's something associated with these cases. And I don't want to ruin like my findings, but I found murderers in London and in the Northeast, and traveling guys who were in bands who were into this stuff. Things that there was one video that really I keyed into. That was a video called Broken that was associated with, his name is Trent Reznor. And he had this underground film called Broken that is a sequence that shows the abduction, torture, and murder of a man, like in a underground environment. And
I'm assuming this is Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So, and I don't know if this movie was like, people thought it was real, like it was very realistic. And so that was kind of where the kind of light bulb went off in my head. Like, this fits the sequence of this. It's incredible too, because this young man that they abduct in the video looks like the standard SFK victim, so you can watch that on my film, which is overly long, but there's a lot of information there, 3.5 hours.
And that's another thing that what I'm trying to say is, nowadays everybody's so sensitive about not saying anything bad about gays, it's discrimination, et cetera, but there is a certain dark side where these men are having to go out, and because they are so ashamed of themselves and what they're doing, they go out alone and they don't tell anybody where they're going.
Yeah, there's a lot of furtiveness, like underground, and I tied this into this underground. And it's important to remember that heterosexuals do things just as bad to women. Men do it to women. There was a guy called the Love Box Killer outside of Truth and Consequences, New Mexico. He was at a bar. He had a team. He had people helping him, where he would drug women, take them to this place and torture them and kill them and then dump them in the desert. They actually don't know how many people he killed. But that was something similar to these types of cases. So that was a heterosexual case. And I do believe one of the mysteries and confusing aspects of these SFK killings is just like that. People don't understand this kind of subculture, so they don't comprehend what's happening to these men. I think that that's one of the things. But certain segments of the homosexual lifestyle are just as BDSM, just like men, so or heterosexual. So there was an interesting, you say that too, because I brought up, there was this movie that was done by the guy who directed The Exorcist. His name was William Friedkin, and he did a movie with Al Pacino, which a lot of people don't know about, but it's called Cruising, and it involved the hunt for a gay serial killer, somebody who was killing gay men, I believe, in New York City. So Al Pacino plays a detective who goes underground and starts going to like these really like fetish gay bars, and it was fascinating to watch that, because I felt like this was a correlation with these cases, but also the history of that film brought tons of resistance. Like, really, certain members of that community came out and like protested the filming and disrupted it and all this stuff. So they're very sensitive about some of the information that Friedkin was willing to put in the film, which is extremely graphic. Depictions of some of these like BDSM fetish practices. So, that is, I think that, yeah, you're right. There is, and it's interesting too, you bring that up, because there's a correlation. I studied a lot of these cases, and there's a significant number, probably 10 or 15 cases where these men are on Grindr or something else, I don't know what there's a couple other gay, meetup sites or whatever, but that's a correlation too. So those things are very dangerous. And I had people tell me, it's really easy to spoof a name and spoof a whole personality. So, if somebody's thinking about it, if there's a serial killer, they put up a fake, name. And also, like, I think, some people, these men get lured into something. They think they're meeting one dude, right? But, oh yeah, just come back to my place. It'll be just you and me. And then there's 3 other guys there and things go south, right?
Yeah, basically what's happening is they're thinking with their private parts, and they're getting so excited they're ignoring the danger.
Right. So they're lured by money maybe. The fact that they're college students too, maybe that they're financially vulnerable too, is something I've thought. So maybe they're lured somewhere else. So yeah, it's really a shame, and there's a lot of broken families and parents who had their hearts ripped out. There was this, I was telling you about Dakota James, but his family, made a burial plot. I mean, it's just a terrible story, but they made a family burial plot, and here's their son who has died from what I believe was a murder, and all of the family, parents' names and uncles' names are there. So he passed away before them, So, and that's not the way, God intended it. So it's just a real heartbreaking shame, some of these cases.
Yeah, and
I watched these cases, so I've probably watched. Jim Smith has probably seen 20 to 30 at least men disappear, follow their cases, and then watch them end up dead in water. So he's literally watched these murders take place. It's incredible. I've seen 5 or 10. This list of like, dude, if this guy gets found in water, I'm gonna freak out. And there it is again. Oh man, found in water.
I also have to wonder if this whole thing might be coming from the killer's hate of his own sexuality. Like, this is his way of expressing his own hatred towards himself for being a homosexual.
Possibly, that I wouldn't say that's outside of the realm of possibility. There was a case that was very recent that happened in Toronto, and the killer's name was MacArthur, and he was a homosexual predator. And they caught him. There were men disappearing. There were actually a lot of like missing posters. There's tons of missing posters associated with these cases, and there were that I included in my movie, because people want to find these men. But this MacArthur guy, gay bar, and he was burying his bodies at the bottom of. It's pretty grim, but he was burying the bodies at the bottom of planters. So he would plant a tree above it, and that's how he got rid of bodies. But, God only knows how many people that he murdered. And he could have been one of the Smiley Face Killers. You just don't know. Somebody who's traveling around, a predator. You just don't know.
And to these people, the body, there doesn't necessarily have to be a rape, because the act of stabbing or torturing, that is a sexual thrill to the murderer.
Or, yeah, right. So tying somebody up, putting a gimp mask on them, these kind of like leather masks. There's a lot of weird stuff. And if you, like, I live in Los Angeles, and there are definitely fetish bondage stores, and y'all look in the window and there's a gimp mask. Like, what the hell's going on? What are you guys up to? So, yeah, it's really dark, but I do believe that's the sum thing. And the victims aren't all necessarily gay. They fit maybe a gay ideal, but maybe only half, which is really an overwhelming amount. I mean, it shows that this is kind of like a homosexual crime if half the people who are victims gay. But it doesn't mean that all the victims are within that lifestyle.
Yeah, there's extremes going on too, because there's plenty of people who practice these BDSM things that don't take it to a bloody or extremely painful or grotesque extreme either. Agreed.
Yeah, I think it's a subset. There was an interesting case here that was covered by, it was on the Ed Opperman report, and the guy's name was Skip Chasen, but he had some kind of, he was in Los Angeles. the interesting thing is the guy worked on big time deals. He was very well connected in one of these law firms or agencies where he would do multi-million-dollar movie deals involving huge celebrities, like the A-list celebrities. But on the side, he was known as like Master Skip or Master Bob. He was into BDSM, and he had a home dungeon in Los Feliz, this part of Los Angeles, where somebody died. Like he literally suffocated somebody to death. And he kept his job, went back to work. They was termed an accidental death. And that was that. And it's incredible. The guy's name, the journalist who covered that case, it'll come to me. But yeah, so there's like another case where somebody accidentally like gets taken to that level where, tortured to death. And it's here in LA. Skip Chasen. You can look it up. CHASEN.
Do you feel like in most of these cases it's like the one you mentioned where it's one guy, or do you feel it's most likely small groups or even some sort of network of guys doing this?
That's an excellent question. And I would say that it's all of the above. So I do believe that there are individual predators. I believe that there are group predators. And I do believe that there may be communication through the dark web about this, how they figured out this kind of MO. Because at first glance, it's like the perfect crime. That's what your thing is, you can abduct somebody, put him in water and fool the police and nobody will follow up, right? Because he drowned or the kid drowned or nobody really knows what happened. So I do believe that that's why there's this commonality, this similar MO that's happening in multi-jurisdictions, is that somebody learned this MO, whether somebody's traveling between different, BDSM places or something, or they're communicating in the dark web. There's some really dark stuff in the dark web.
Oh, yeah, and another thing that's important to bring up about these BDSM activities is there's certainly always a phase where it requires you to put some sort of trust into the other person participating, and that's a great time to take advantage of a person, and when they're already tied up, drug them or begin killing them or beating them, or that's why they have safe words and things like that, because you're supposed to trust the other person.
Right, so that's master-slave, right? So yeah, the slave is supposed to trust. It's interesting that you brought that up because it brought to mind John Wayne Gacy, because his thing was he liked young boys or whatever, 13, 14-year-old boys, but he would befriend them, super nice, get them to the point where they would trust him, and he would put cuffs on them. Like, oh, it's no big deal. I'll show you where the key is, He would lure them in, and once he had the cuffs on, his whole personality changed. And that's when the kids got, off. Stop again. God damn. Sorry. That's when things went south. So, I think that that phenomena is possibly happening, something like that, Where like, oh, trust me, everything will be fine. And it's interesting you bring that up because the MacArthur case that I was talking about out of Toronto, there were survivors or people who had been with him and said that he, did things that were, he would take a person all the way to the edge of suffocating or death, And one of the fascinating things is the reason when he got caught, this MacArthur guy, the police busted in to his apartment and he had somebody tied up on the bed. He had somebody in bondage. Yeah, it's an incredible story. So I think that's why the police actually broke down the doors. They thought he had another victim. So, yeah, that's just an incredible case. So when you look at all these cases, and I include a lot of the potential murderers, when you look at them all, you see these similarities. There's one guy, I'll tell you out of the documentary. His name is Stephen Port, but he was he was 40 years old. He wore like a wig, but he had GHB just lying around his house all the time, and he was GHBing men, and he was on 3 different gay meeting sites, and his victims were all disposed in a church courtyard. He wrote fake notes and made them look like drug overdoses. But it was like watching, and one of the remarkable things about the Port case is he got away with it over and over again, kind of like the Smiley Face Killer cases where nobody keys into what's going on. He got rid of it over and over again. And the way he got caught from doing this was the family of one of the victims wanted the CCTV video, which the police just overlooked. And they got the CCTV video of their loved one and said, who's this guy with John? Who's this other guy? who's walking with him? And the police are like, I don't know. Well, the family found out who it was and found out that Stephen Ford was associated with other mysterious deaths, and that's how he got busted. So it was that case, and that was very recent. I think it was a 2016 arrest. So God only knows what else he was up to, was traveling. He said that there was a network of predators, and he had been doing it for like his life, like a long time. And there was an inquest, like the way that the Brits do it is if things go wrong, there'll be an inquest that study went wrong. And I think that like 25 people were censured or brought up for bungling the Port case because they could have stopped some of the deaths that happened. So there are, potential killers out there. I do believe there are serial killers, probably 3 or 5 or at least 10 or definitely groups. And I talk about groups in my documentary. So they're definitely exemplars of these types of killers.
Yeah, I would hate to encourage anybody or anything like that, but the bottom line is that most of the killers that get caught right away, they get caught because they did something stupid. A lot of these guys that give it a lot of thought, they target homeless people, prostitutes, in this case, gay men at these BDSM bars and meetup apps and sites and things like that. The guys that really give it a lot of thought, they can kill 30 people, 60 people, even hundreds. It really boggles my mind how many people they're able to murder.
Yeah, it's. I mean, look at John Wayne Gacy. I mean, how many people? 35 known, and he actually dumped 2 of his victims in the river. So he got to the point where he was disposing of bodies in the river. Look at what is the name? Jeffrey Dahmer, kind of like a strange bondage, lured people home and drugged them. And he was a homosexual. So yeah, so there's probably somebody out there who, I think if they ever catch him, people will be in shock that this is a person who's killed that many people.
In Gacy especially, John Wayne Gacy, he's always really bothered me. Just the whole idea of this overweight man dressing in clown makeup and then, scaring the shit out of his victims before he tortures them to death. That's just got to be one of the most terrifying things I can imagine. Much worse than the Stephen King movie It, because this guy was real and
real.
He's doing worse things, really.
Well, it's interesting you brought up the Stephen King movie It, because right at the beginning of the film, there's a depiction of a smiley face. So that somebody within that film, either the director or the writer or somebody, put that smiley face in. Right at the first minute of the film, they actually draw a smiley face on a steamed up window. And I was like, oh, come on, man. Because that's the theme. It's about killing without, thinking it's fun, The universe is a big joke. But yeah, I mean, I think John Wayne Gacy is very disturbing too, because he was very social. He was like the head of the Friars Club, He was around tons of people all the time. There's a picture of him with Rosalind Carter, Jimmy Carter's wife, So it's very disturbing. And people think that he might have been networked, that other people were involved in those, So
yeah, it really makes you have to ask certain questions, because when these networks do exist, they kind of tend to take whoever got caught and turn them into the push it all onto them, so to speak.
Right. Well, that's a great point. I mean, they say that Berkowitz, the son of Sam Killer, could not have killed all those people. There were other people involved, but the police had a suspect, and that was it. This is our boy. We're done. The murders are done. So that's like one of, it's The Ultimate Evil was a book by Maury Terry that explained, hey, it's something else is going on here. And that happens in other cases. There was the case out of the Dutroux case out of Belgium, where all kinds of people were involved in this child abduction, horrible stuff, kept in dungeons, raped, all that stuff. And some of the women died in these dungeons. So there are actually similarities between that case and I believe the SFK cases. But, it went all the way to the top. That whole case was suppressed. There was like people marching in the streets. The government almost shut down. And, you might find, part of part of these cases is super disturbing. And I do believe,
well, could these ones have any sort of link to Satanism?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No question. I believe that smiley face is used in words to have 2 meaning things. If you watch the documentary, you'll see the satanic, current that runs underneath these crimes.
Yeah, that's
So
a
it's really disturbing. Yeah.
yeah, that's a very very powerful thing going on, especially considering that this Satanism, it seems to underpin just so many things out there, like the music industry, maybe even the government. It just seems that these satanic sort of lines just stretch in every direction.
It's a good point. If you will look at like Selena Gomez or Miley Cyrus, they're outfitted in all these smiley face attire. It shows up in all these places. If you research the Pizzagate thing that went down in D.C., some of those Instagram accounts associated with Alefantis' account had with people wearing the smiley face. So it's an underground symbol. It goes back to Burroughs, and William Burroughs was a real crazy person. But I showed the line from Burroughs through some of these other people whose names I don't want to mention, but they're in the documentary. And I actually spent about an hour in the documentary showing all the smiley face references in films, books, and music. So it's there. It's definitely there.
I recall seeing it on Nirvana shirts, I believe.
Exactly. Nirvana. And where do you know that Nirvana and Cobain spent time with William Burroughs and they made an album together?
I just recently learned about that connection.
Yeah.
That's a whole world unto itself. Very
Yeah, and there are
fascinating.
pictures of them together. And I'll give you a little teaser, but I have pictures of who I think some of these perps were with William Burroughs in my documentary.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Was he? Did he have something like that possibly going on?
Well, he killed his wife under suspicious circumstances,
Yes,
supposedly put an
yes.
apple on her head. But he was I think my understanding, I can't say I have a great knowledge of William Burroughs, but my understanding is he was like a sexual kind of occultist who knew about Crowley, knew about the 23 Enigma, which you see a lot around. You actually can see the 23 Enigma and the smiley face in the movie Suicide Squad. The actual picture of Suicide Squad is a smiley face. They're all in together in a smiley face look, if you look at that. And they drive a bus 23, the 23 Enigma. 2/3 of one is 666, right?
And speaking of Suicide Squad, to circle back to something you said earlier about these guys having a belief that life is meaningless, that's pretty much the Joker by definition. That's what he believes.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And you can look at Alan Moore, The Killing Joke, and all this stuff. Yeah. So it's something I just came across within the last week, a song by Motorhead, which is called Smile as You Kill. So that's an interesting connection. So these guys in the underground know about some of these ideas, some of these concepts. But yeah, it's really incredible. A lot of people are in on it. I do believe a lot of it. If you look at the smiley face symbology, you'll see it pop up all over the place. It's actually much more common, but it's there, I believe, intentionally by a lot of these Hollywood elite types.
Yeah, who would think something so sweet and innocent as a smiley face would actually be something related to Satanism?
Not me. That's the sinister aspect of it, right? Because it's just like a number. Like Crowley's number is 93, and Satanists use it all the time because it equates to agape and thelema. But most people would look at 93 or 11, the number of magic. They would just look at it and not know the secret meaning. But the insiders do. People who've been initiated or stuff like that. So,
yeah, I've been waking up to a lot of this stuff recently. I used to hate numerology and stuff like that. I just didn't understand it. But recently, I've come to understand that this is actually a hidden code that these people use to communicate with each other.
Yes, correct. Absolutely. That was the gist of my first book. Prophet of Evil, is that the numbers of the whole 9/11 event, the date 9/11, the Twin Towers, the planes, were all Crowley thelemic numbers.
Can we go into that a little bit? This is just so fascinating. I know both the number 9 and the number 11 do symbolize something in particular. Well, I'll let you go ahead and explain that.
Well, I don't know the totality. I know 11 very well, but 9, my understanding is that that's the power number. It's the highest number before numbers start revolving into power of 2. And not Michael Aquino, was the other guy, Anton LaVey. All of his power kind of concepts were laid out in the 9 numbers because of 9 is a power number. So you'll see that 9. And 11 is the number of magic. It's also symbolizes like certain negative energies within the Kabbalah. And it also symbolizes the coming together of the macrocosm and the microcosm, which are represented by the numbers 5 and 6. So 5 and 6 together equal 11, which is why Harry Potter's name is a 5 and a 6, and why his wand is 11 inches long, right? So he's got all these power magic, and these kids are being indoctrinated with this. They don't know the totality of it, but once they get older, if they get initiated, they'll figure it out. But 11 for Crowley was also the number of the new aeon. He believed that it symbolized his idea of the ideal world. So it's a much more scary number because he believed that, you know, the new aeon was a new cosmological change that would take place in humanity. So when you see this 11th, September 11th, that's why that date. That's why I believe the people who did 9/11 chose that date. I don't think they even have a choice. So you see those numbers, 11, 77, 93, and 175. The reason 77 is important is 7 is the number of the perfected man. 7 and 7 is like a union of two people, but it also is the 77 infernal names of Satan, one of which name of the infernal names of Satan is the Demogorgon, which is why the Demogorgon is named that in Stranger Things, right? So that's just another name for Satan. So 77 is, and that's listed out in LaVey's books. But it also symbolizes, like, though 77 was the number of Babylon for Aleister Crowley, and also Liber Oz, which was the rights of man, this whole idea where you can do whatever you want, and if anybody thwarts those rights, kill him. So he actually listed that out in this book, Liber Oz. So that's 77. And then 93, Crowley in his kind of scribblings used the Kabbalah to give numbers, give words their numerical value. And two very important words and concepts within his religion, agape and thelema, equaled 93. So agape means love, thelema means will. And the name, if you read the Book of the Law, which Crowley supposedly was received by Satan, Satan dictated him the law as Awas in 1904 in Egypt. There's a commandment that all of the followers will be known as Thelemites. So Thelema is 93. So you'll see this 93 bandied about. One of the more fascinating numbers that concludes the 9/11 event is 175, which is a series of rituals that you do to prove that you adore your God. And it's Crowley's, I forgot the name of it, but it's Liber 170. So Liber means book. But it's a remarkable piece, and also a bookend that shows the deep thelemic meaning and understanding of the perpetrators of the events of 9/11, that they would actually include a ritual that Crowley wrote. So all those thelemic numbers, and actually they were integrated within the Twin Towers, which were financed by Rockefeller family. David Rockefeller and Nelson Rockefeller provided the land for that, and the UN, of all things, the United Nations, which is both on Manhattan. But those buildings themselves were built at 110 stories. So those are both an 11. But they're both an 11 featuring the skyline. And the number 11 for Crowley also was also kind of a visual thing that symbolized two things coming together. So when that building got torn down, they built a new building that looks like a hexagram. It's like another occult illuminated building. So, 9/11 is kind of like a human sacrifice that involved things like you would see from the Wicker Man. Like the Wicker Man, the non-initiates get lured into this wicker and burned to death. So, so there's 9/11 was just an incredible event that people who are not initiated or do not understand the occult, like me back then, had no clue of really what happened. But I'm still trying to figure it out. It's 20 years since, you know.
Me too. I become ever increasingly disturbed learning this stuff because, now if I was to see an event like this happen, if I saw the number 11, I'd be like, oh, okay, it's them.
Right. Well, me too. Like I was once in Nevada, and there was a guy with a jacket 93, and I was like, I know exactly what you're doing, man. You're sending a signal out, to your fellow Thelemites, people who believe that. So, it's there. And I do believe that those numbers were signaling numbers to all Thelemites that this is an event. 2001 was the date. 9/11 was the day. And, I think it was, it's kind of like was the time meridian, I think it's, 2,000 years since, Christ's, birth, right? So, yeah, it's just an incredible high Masonic event with, people who really thought. If you read, like, there was a guy, I think it was, there was a guy, it was Lafayette was the guy who designed it and was literally receiving information from a demon. I forgot the name of it. Like he had these ideas where they came from the demonic realm, from other beings. It's off the charts.
Whoa, wait.
Yeah. And then there's an interview, or really, if you want to have your mind blown out, there's an interview with, I see his face. I can't remember his name. He runs a podcast, but he had like a literal sit down with this guy. And so you look up Laffoley, Laffoley. And,
yeah, that is extremely disturbing, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, even if I type this in, it says Paul Laffoley, painter inspired by time travel and aliens, dies at 80. But he was in Paranoia magazine, but he also it was Freeman. Freeman interviewed him. You know who Freeman is?
Oh, Freeman Fly.
Yes, so he interviewed Paul Laffoley. So I would definitely recommend looking at that and who that guy was.
So all things being considered, could somebody have known that 9/11 was going to happen before it did just by looking at the numbers? Or
I think that I do think that people knew 9/11 was going to happen. I do think that large amounts of people knew 9/11 to happen, and I believe even larger amount of people knew it was an inside job once the day of it happened, right? But everybody was like too afraid to actually say something. The only person I didn't know was an inside job. It took me 2 or 3 years. I was like, something fishy's going on. But the real person was, I can't remember these names now. But some people knew. They knew right away that it was a huge stage event. It's really hard to believe it's a stage event because you also have to believe that all these other people are in on it. The media, the government, all these other people just went along with it, and the military. But that's exactly what happened.
And what's really sad about it is there's an entire subset of humans out there, followers of Islam, that got blamed for this bullshit, which is wrong on every level.
I agree. Yeah, so I mean, I think that whole thing was just a big, it was a structured thing to start a war. They needed an idea to start a war, and that was it. As Dave McGowan was the guy who knew the day that it happened, and Dave McGowan wrote weird scenes inside the canyon. He also wrote really good stuff on his website about the Lincoln murder, Lincoln assassination. So Dave McGowan keyed into it right away.
And also Bill Cooper. Bill Cooper,
right.
Yeah.
No, you're right. So it's Bill Cooper and Dave McGowan. So they knew.
That's two people.
The thing is like I remember we talking on our last show about how the elites get rid of people and put somebody into their place. Do you remember
that? That sounds like a conversation, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I vaguely remember I talk about that, but who Bill Cooper died, and who got inserted into that kind of space?
Alex Jones.
Correct. And Bill Cooper's death is highly suspicious. They were antagonizing him, and he actually predicted his own death. Like, they're going to get me. So I think he saw it coming.
One thing that I learned recently is if you're looking at an obituary and you see the number 11 a bunch of times, that means that there's a good chance that person's not even really dead.
Really? Interesting. I didn't know that. Not surprised. I just sent you a young picture of Bill Cooper. I came across it. I was like, oh, man, he looks like a American military guy.
Yeah, he's got that Captain America look.
Yeah, he does. I mean, the guy was a giant, dude. Before the internet, Behold a Pale Horse was really one of the original underground books. So.
Oh my God, that book! I read it way after the fact, of course, as an adult, and it was just every bit as impactful as I could possibly imagine it being. If you were to read it when Bill Cooper was first coming around.
Yeah, there was he he did a series about the UN, like a bunch of different subjects. He titled it something, but those for me were very influential because I listened to all of them. And he talked about the waiting room inside the UN with the black cube of Saturn. So he was keyed into a lot of this occult stuff, before 9/11. So it's
and he's
a
also
remarkable guy.
Yeah, he was also one of the only people and first people to call out all of these disinformation agents that are going around out there.
Yeah, he was against Jones, right? So
very much so.
Yeah, I mean, Jones' parents just see it like intelligence. It's just a big mess.
Yeah, even this recent thing, since we're on the subject, I just got to ask, what do you think of this whole thing with Alex Jones getting kicked off of social media and getting banned and all of that stuff?
I don't know. It's just very odd. I think that, if you wanted to give somebody credibility, you do these public things that everybody knows about, right? Like maybe people have suspicions, and his handler said, okay, well, let's give him some credibility. Let's do this. Kick him off social media. So, it's just very suspicious. So, I mean, there's things, yeah. I mean, there's real problems there with Jones, man. Real problems. So.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, Jones, this is a point I like to make, especially recently. He was this huge conspiracy guy, very much against the government, and then suddenly overnight he turns into the spokesperson for the Republican Party.
Right. Oh, dude, he was like the primary head for Trump, right?
Yeah.
And he's sitting there with Stone, this longtime Republican operative for 40 years, Roger Stone. So he turned that right for Trump, Yeah, I mean,
got him a lot of votes.
Got him elected, But I mean, the Jones people, that's probably where that base went out. Once Jones told about the spirit cooking within the Podesta emails, people were like, well, this is a whole nightmare. We got to get out and vote. So a lot of those people may have been on the fence of voting. They're like, the Christians went out and said, nope, not going to go there, dude. Not going to vote for Hillary. So I was actually very fortunate because if Hillary became president, we would be in real trouble.
Yeah, all things being even, I don't think, regardless of what's going on now, I don't think anybody would want Hillary in there.
Oh, no, man. No, not at all. When she did her most recent thing, I was looking at her. I was like, this person's criminally insane. I actually didn't even look at her like she was like saying anything legit. It was just like a bunch of crazy deranged stuff. I was like, whoa. So, yeah, I mean, we can get into that subject. But, yeah. So, I mean, I think a lot of suspicious stuff is happening. I do believe that if you look at this whole caravan thing, you look at the Kavanaugh hearings where that was clearly like a structured event for max propaganda benefits. If you look at this kind of David Hogue guy, the anti-gun thing, there are people actively, groups, not just on the left, but also on the right, who are involved in massive propaganda tactical campaigns, that are trying to have maximum effect upon the public. So you got to watch out. So that's this whole Jones thing that he got kicked off of social media may be one of these things, And hey, look, Jones is legit. He just got kicked off of Facebook and Twitter. He got kicked off of YouTube. This guy's really fighting for us, right?
And kind of circling back to a guy like Crowley or some of these Satanist types, when you think about it, these cults, these secret societies, these clubs, basically what they are is control. It's mind control. It's you have to obey me and do what I say. So true.
That's like the distillation. I did an interview where I said, mind control is the handmaiden of the occult. It's always there. People getting into your brain and taking you over whatever, where they're trying to traumatize you, make you afraid. I do believe 9/11 was like this mass traumatizing event, which is it's traumatizing. So people then once they're traumatized, they're susceptible to suggestion. So just like you said, I'm terrified. Oh, Osama bin Laden. And people just go, oh, yeah, it's Osama bin Laden. I don't have any evidence. We'll just say that, right? So if you look at a lot of these guys who are into the occult, they're all into mind control, man. They're all into they all read books on mind control. They talk about it. LaVey was talking about mind control. If you look at Michael Aquino, who was kind of an offshoot of LaVey, he was a psychological operations guy for the military, wrote a book from from psyops to mind war, which means that he was trying to actually advance psyops into a constant state of war on individuals' minds. It's a fascinating book. If you ever want to read some military style mind control stuff, it's available.
Oh, yeah, actually, I got a copy off of Amazon, and I read through the first chapter, and I was so disgusted, so pissed off, and so angry at what I was reading, I stopped reading it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Got through one chapter before realizing that there's something seriously wrong with justifying spying on your own people, period. Right.
I mean, there's real problems with that, too. So. Yeah, it's interesting that you brought that up, man. A lot of mind, and it's a lot of it happening today. And there's all different types of mind control, but really, I think you really don't have to implant something in somebody's brain. You don't have to implant a receiver or anything. You just give them really crappy ideas, pound it in. What did George Bush say? Catapult to propaganda. So he just kept saying that. I mean, he openly said it with a smile, like, "Ha ha, I'm doing this to you," right? So it's a strange world we live in, man.
And with this Bin Laden character, I mean, if you want to call him that, the way that I see it, he's pretty much the fake terrorist from the book 1984 to a T.
Right. Goldstein? Yeah, Goldstein. Absolutely. Totally agree with you. And I mean, that it's like somebody read 1984 and didn't take it as a cautionary tale. They took it as a blueprint, Like, oh, this is a great idea. Let's have a fake enemy. Let's drug people down, give them victory gin, victory cigarettes. Let's watch them all the time. Let's control them, That's really it.
And the whole concept of the double talk, that is just so prevalent nowadays.
And somebody censoring everything, all that stuff.
And also the guy that helps Winston and Julia, the fake rebel, the Alex Jones type. There's a character like that in the book too.
Right. Oh man, it's amazing. And like the Ministry of Truth, they're all pyramids,
Yeah.
That's an incredible book. I need to read it again. Look, man, I wish I didn't have to do this, but I gotta run, man. I gotta cut this short. I'm really sorry.
No worries.
Let's redo it another one.
Yeah, we got
let's
some.
Do another one in the future.
Sure,
talk about a different subject, but
we got some good info out there. If you'd like, did you want to take another minute and just do a little closing, give some plugs or do a final statement or anything?
Yeah, thanks for having me on your show. It's great to be back with you. And my movie is The Smiley Face Killers, it's on Vimeo, Vimeo. You can look up William Ramsey or check that out. And I would highly recommend everybody watch that, particularly people in college or younger men, because you are the target and you do not want this to happen to you. So please do check it out. It's reasonably priced, and I think it's worth the value.
Did you want to introduce your kitty to us?
Oh my God! The thing is that like once I sit down on a chair, she thinks it's time to just like she's got me immobile. So she just bothered me the whole time. She's looking at me right now. She's staring at me. I gotta go, man. Thanks.
All right, William. Really appreciate having you on. Definitely want to do it again someday.
I appreciate you as well. Thank you.
All right.
Cheers.
Good night, my friend. And that was William Ramsey. What a treat, right? Got into some good stuff. I wish we could have gone a little bit longer, but hey, I said an hour and we did an hour, so good enough for me. We will definitely have him on again. So there's so much to talk about. I've been gone so long. As you guys know, there's a second half to this show where I just kind of go off and talk about whatever. And oh my God. All of my music is like not in front of me. I'm not prepared like I should be. But it's okay because there is plenty that I have here that I can play. Let's see here. I did want to play this new Marilyn Manson cover of the Lost Boys song, Cry Little Sister. I figured that'd be a good one to play. So let's go ahead and do that while I jump outside and take a wee. And welcome back to the end of days. I am Daniel, broadcasting to you for this second hour here in the Shimmering Emerald City right here amidst these broken ruins. Did you miss me? I've been gone a long time, and I've gotten so many emails, text messages, DMs, etc., etc. Daniel, did they get you? Daniel, where are you? Daniel, is End of Days Radio still going to go on? And the answer to all of those questions is yes. Yes and yes. Look, I needed to think. Sometimes we all need to think. Just think about what's been going on lately with me. I mean, come on. Some of this shit is just completely insane. We went so far down the rabbit hole. I am still hearing things that we brought up here. I'm hearing it like come up in other programming, like even mainstream stuff. That's how much of an impact this show has had on the collective mind. And no, I'm not delusional. No, I'm not. This isn't my ego talking. I'm not talking myself up. I'm not bullshitting you. It's the truth. The reverberations of this show are happening, and they are reaching much farther than many of us would want to even think. And I really think that this show played a part in some of the censorship that's been happening lately. The big crackdown, the social media crackdown. I think this show is partly responsible for that. I believe that to be true. There's a lot of things coming up, and the things that were coming up seem to be happening faster than they could hide it or cover it up. I can't prove that, of course not. But I think it's an awful quinky-dink that when we really start exposing some of these major lies and the people behind them, all of a sudden there's this big crackdown. Certain things happen to me, which I'm not going to mention. Nothing violent or too disturbing, of course. I'd be sure to tell you if it was. But it was enough for me to need to take a little while and just kind of think things out. What's going on here? Why is this happening? Why is it happening to me? And what can I do to guarantee that I'll still be around here broadcasting 5 years from now, 7 years from now, 10 years from now? I would hate to end up like certain other people that kind of had the rug pulled out from underneath them. I just want to hedge my bets a little bit. I'm not going anywhere, people. I'm not going anywhere. And one thing that I really thought a lot about during my little hiatus was how much this show means to me. How important it is to me. Sometimes you have to step away temporarily. I mean, it was a month, a little bit more. Sometimes you got to step away to really realize how much something means to you. No, this show is not my life. It's not my entire life. It's not the focal point of my existence. I mean, I have other things going on, of course. But it's kind of the main thing. It's kind of the main thing. Keep the main thing the main thing. That's some advice I got long ago. Keep the main thing the main thing. And that's what I'm doing. I'm keeping the main thing the main thing. I still believe in spreading truth. I still believe in waking people up. It's just that the methods have to evolve because what they, in quotes, are doing is changing. The way that they are silencing us, the way that they are attacking us, it's changing. So we need to change with them. Every move they make, we need to make a counter move. We need to do our best to outsmart them. They've got the money behind them, but we've got the numbers. And we've got a little thing called truth on our side. Oh, and there's also God as well. Because you can damn sure better believe that God is not with the Illuminati. They probably think that she is. I threw the she in there for the feminists out there. Yeah, I'm thinking about you too. He's not with them. I mean, that's obvious. That's very obvious. There is an undercurrent. There is a power out there. When you are in the darkest place, when things are so bad and you're surrounded by enemies, when you're surrounded by people that hate you and want to destroy you, when you're surrounded by people that want to destroy you and rape you and tear you apart, there's always the big guy, and he's always with you at all times. I don't care if you're in prison. I don't care if you're in the middle of the war. I don't care if you're in the back of an alley. I don't care if you're drugged up on GHB, getting ready to pass out. There's always somebody with you. And that's something that's important to remember, because no matter what they do, no matter what sort of manipulation they come up with, no matter what sort of occult secrets they have, technologies, magic, money, they have all those things, right? Money is the root of all evil. They have those advantages. But no matter what they do, no matter how advanced their technology is, no matter how mysterious and powerful these entities are that we encounter and deal with and these elites seem to work with, all of that stuff, no matter how stacked the deck seems to be against us, we always know that there's something out there underpinning everything that could come alive at any time and seriously fuck up their world. And they know that too. I guarantee it. In fact, I came up with a little thing that I wrote. It's just a few lines. I guess it's sort of a poem. It goes like this. The Holy Spirit is my cocaine. Truth is my meth. Christ is my heroin. I am an addict who craves spiritual freedom and can't live another second without another hit. I will crawl across the floor searching for spiritual crack crumbs. I will chase the seven-headed dragon. Just a little poem I wrote. It's a little poem I wrote. I hope you guys like it. It's comparing spirituality to being a drug addict. It's like a positive spin on being a drug addict. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Just don't plagiarize it and try to make money off of it, because that's not cool. I did get a lot of feedback before I took the break and during the break. I'm going to read a little bit of that to you. I'm not going to say the names of who these messages are from, because I don't want to disrespect them or out them or dox them. Dox, that's the new word that the young people use nowadays. So this is from R in Liverpool in the UK. I told you guys that we have tons of fans over in England. There are tons of End of Days radio fans over in England. I don't know why this is. One of my main theories is because they speak English. I thought that might have something to do with it. They can actually understand what I'm saying, or at least partially so. I won't pretend that I could always understand what they're saying. No. I love British everything. I'm watching the new season of Doctor Who, by the way. The new one with the female Doctor Who. We could get into that. I don't think you guys want to hear that level of nerdism, so I'm not going to jump down that rabbit hole. I'm not going to jump inside of that TARDIS. Okay, so, hi, Daniel. This is from R. Hi, Daniel. Just messaging you from Liverpool in the UK to let you know that your show is my friend and mine's favorite show, and we always listen to you and think you're as funny as fuck. Laugh out loud. Can you give us a mention and make our day? Thanks. Give us a mention. Well, I guess I can say their names. I'll just do the first names just in case. Ray and Lee. Shout out to Ray and Lee in the UK. You guys kick ass. Big high five to you guys. Thank you so much for listening. It means a lot to me. Every single one of you guys. Like, you are the wind beneath my wings. I say that so many times. Let's see. This one is from Jay. Looks like it's mostly about the show about Sam. And that was with our friend. Nathan Sanders. So I thank you so much. This is it right here. I thank you so much for your YouTube channel. So she must listen to the show that way. You can get us on YouTube, of course. I have had so many synchronicities with Sam, and you have been a voice for him to communicate with me to see all the signs within my own life and the previous addresses I have lived at. I have seen the Zebra, Shark, Silver Springs, Ivy Lane, and many, many song messages have been major parts of my life. I don't know how much longer my marriage will last because I have ascended to 4D and my husband is still 3D. Where do you think Sam wants us or that angels to go? Where do you think Sam wants us or that angels to go when we have no money after a divorce, if this is to be the next step in my life? Okay, and then she lists where she's at and details, personal details. It was also told to me that Sam. It was also told to me by Sam that California is full of dark magic and to get out fast. Okay, so I'm going to do my best to answer the question here. Be very careful anytime you are basing a life decision like divorce after basing it on anything that you hear through a synchronicity or through a song or anything like that. You got to be very sure and make sure that you don't. Somebody gave me a little piece of advice that really struck a chord with me. They said, Daniel, it doesn't matter where these thoughts you're having are coming from. It doesn't matter if these thoughts are from demonic beings, from aliens, from spirits, from your own consciousness. It doesn't matter. What matters is if what you are thinking and the decisions you make, what matters is if they are true to yourself. So don't get too focused in on the messages that you're hearing. Focus more on the way that it feels inside of you. When you make a decision, make sure that you are being true to yourself and you are doing what's right for you. The only thing that these messages and synchronicities can do is get you pointed in the right direction or tell you that you are making the right choices after you've already made them. They can't make the choices for you. If it's making the choices for you, this is my opinion. I'm going to offend some people out there, but in my opinion, it's negative, it's alien, it's demonic, it's whatever, right? If anything is trying to control you or your life, there's no way that it can be good. But if it's simply giving you a sign that you made the right decision, or maybe just giving you a nudge in one direction or another, then there's a very good chance it could come from the light or the good side. I know this is going to anger some people. There's a lot of channelers and people like that are going to call me judgmental, and I've gone on this topic time again. It's not being judgmental. It's about discernment and being careful and keeping the walls up and not letting anything in that's going to fuck up your world. In my opinion, it's the doubt and it's the disbelief that causes us to do certain occult experimentation that can allow these negative entities, these parasitic beings in. And I'm not against occult practices. I'm not against practicing magic or sorcery or even the summoning of spirits or channeling or anything like that. It's just it's like weightlifting. You gotta work your way up. I'm personally not interested in doing those things. I have my own magic and methods that I use, but it's like weightlifting. You gotta work your way up. If you try to lift up 500 pounds when you're skinny as a beanpole, what's gonna happen? That weight's gonna fall on your head and crush you. If you try to summon that angel or demon before you're ready, it's going to bite your head off. Yeah, even if it's an angel. You think you can summon an angel and it's going to be happy with you? It's going to want to know what the fuck you're summoning it for. And if you don't give it a good answer, then I can't guarantee what's going to happen. You might want to just avoid that entire thing, from what I've heard. But to each his own. In regards to California being full of dark magic, entirely possible. Entirely possible. One particular city that I always think of is Los Angeles, or the City of Angels, or what some people like to call it, the City of Fallen Angels. And within Los Angeles is Hollywood, or the Holy Wood. Very, very dark. A lot of magical energies going on around that area. A lot of occult things. I'm even aware that there was a witches' war that happened in San Francisco back in the 60s or 70s. So that's a very occult area. There's a lot of secret societies. Hollywood, of course, very rich, powerful people that are involved in secret societies and magical circles, and it just goes on and on. There's really an entire world to explore in California alone. That's how bad it is there. And bad is relative, of course. To some people, that would be great. But there's definitely a huge amount of satanic sort of energies around that area. Hollywood, of course, movies and acting and the music industry, a lot of it's very shallow, materialistic. American Satan. Go watch American Satan. That's it in a nutshell. Selling your soul for riches and fame. It's not that you directly sell your soul to Satan. Like, you don't meet up with him and he plays a violin and you sign a contract. It's a slow process of coercion, little decisions you make inside of yourself, which leads you down a certain dark path, which may or may not be influenced by entities that you can or cannot perceive. Because that's what's going on all the time. We have entities persuading us, nudging us in different directions, good ones, bad ones. Okay, let's see. I think I have one more letter. Let's see here. I apologize for the delay. I just want to make sure I get to all of these because I do love you guys so much. Nope, that's junk mail. Well, oh my God, why do people send me all this junk mail? I don't understand that. Like, what am I supposed to do with all of it? Okay, here's one. This is what I was looking for. It's from D. Started listening on the Paranormal Radio app. Oh my God, you were streaming, but now only on the podcast. But except for the marijuana, you think like me in a lot of ways. My rap goes, I'm a lover, not a fighter. I'm blah, blah, blah years old. Your interview in August with the Luciferian Agenda and the YouTube Flat Earth 101, I am reforming my truth. King James is the Gideon Bible of choice. Thank you for doing what you do. I hope you have accepted Jesus' gift of salvation. I would like to call in and be part of your broadcast. But Saturday is the only time I know I can spend time with my honey. Look, D, spend time with your honey. I am not trying to get in the way of you and your honey. I mean, if that's the only time that you guys have to be together, what the hell? Oh my God, there's somebody calling. Hello.
Hello.
Hey there, buddy.
What's going on, Daniel?
Not much. How are you doing?
I'm so good. Did I catch you during the news roundup?
Oh, I was just going over a few listener emails. I got a lot of emails over the break. As you know, I've been off air for a very long time.
Yeah, I heard those. Those are pretty cool. Please keep the emails coming. What was those two guys that said they like it? They're funny?
That was... Let me backtrack. The first guy's name is Ray, and the second guy's name was Lee. Ray and Lee.
Oh, that's so cool. Ray Lee, right on. He is funny.
Shout out to Ray and Lee over in the UK.
Shout out. Oh, yeah, I love that part.
Smashing.
That's so cool.
Did I sound British? Smashing.
Cheerio.
Cheerio. Should we have some tea now, Todd the Bod?
Is it 12 o'clock in England now?
Yes, it's 10 o'clock. It's almost tea time.
Let us sit down for a gentleman's chat over a cup of tea.
Oh, yes. And then we could go outside and play some croquet.
And after that,
cricket.
Bow down and worship the Queen.
Oh, yes. We can worship her holy ankles, her wrinkly holy ankles.
Pay homage to her beautiful form.
Oh, yes. Before she transforms into a 9-foot-tall reptilian.
Don't. That's horrible. And we meant no disrespect.
Of course not. We're only joking.
Mm-hmm. It's a comedy show.
It is at times. Other times
funny.
it's political. Sometimes it's a sexual advice show. Other times it's a show about interviews. And Midgets?
Too,
No, well, hey, now Todd,
Often.
you can't say that word midget. That's a bad word. You have to say little people.
Or what's that other term for them?
Hobbits?
There's another one. There's a number of them, but no one that's accepted by society now. Wow, your guest brought up a number of interesting things. At times, he sounded just like me 2 years ago.
Yeah, fantastic interview. Where do we even start with that one? That the Smiley Face Killer. My God, that is just the mystery there.
I'd start with the born again Christian thing, or whatever sect of Christian thing he was coming from. It kind of went off on a Christian thing. The Smiley Face Killer, that's an incredible story. All I've heard is like podcasts, and I might have seen a YouTube video or two about the Smiley Face Killer. And I connect it with David Paulides. You remember David Paulides?
He wrote a book, didn't he?
Missing Persons, 411. The most in-depth researcher on missing people that disappear. Thousands of people disappear every year in national forests. That was kind of his main study at the beginning. But then he realized just nationwide, millions a lot of people are disappearing every year.
Yeah, and that's something that is just so strange, especially when you think about, I was talking earlier with William, the numbers. Some of these guys, they'll kill 30, 60, 100, 200 people. I mean, there's towns where there's only 200 people or less.
Totally.
You killed the whole town?
Well, it reminded me of where David Paulides, he went to the national parks. He tried to get records from them. But they wouldn't turn them, they didn't want to turn them over about how many people disappear every year and
Todd,
where they disappeared.
When you come on the line here, since we've been gone so long, you're supposed to go, "Did you miss me?"
Did you miss me? I'm supposed to say that?
Yeah, you're supposed to say, "Did you guys miss me? Did you miss me?"
I'm supposed to say that?
Go ahead.
Did you guys miss me?
Say it again.
Did you miss me?
Oh, there you go. One more time.
Really? I'm supposed to say that? Oh.
One more time. Come on, be a sport.
Did you miss me?
Whoa, okay. You're not fucking around tonight.
Well, you asked for it.
But hey, Todd.
It is close to Halloween, so.
Todd,
I guess it's kind of scary, some of that shit he was putting out there.
Have you been watching the news, buddy?
Oh, well, I'm not watching it, but I read it.
So, the main thing that went on when we were away is this whole Kavanaugh thing. Judge Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I think it was like a month of just wasted energy and space, and people that have dug into it come out with all these, went into all those rabbit holes into their histories of their back histories, Daniel. Kavanaugh and the lady accusing him, Christine Blasey Ford.
I have a very specific question about this I wanted to ask you, Todd. As you know...
please, yeah.
Yeah, so Judge Kavanaugh, he was accused of some very bad things, some inappropriate behavior, participating in certain things. I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, in this country or in the world in general, do we have a rape culture?
What we have here is probably the most subtle mechanized system of control that they can put over society to try to shape it in the direction where they can control it, the people that run the world. So I don't know if that answers your question, but there's definitely a system in control here.
But more specifically, and that definitely probably has a lot to do with it, but is there a culture of certain types of rape are okay? It gets kind of ignored and accepted by society.
Well, what there is there's culture, which is you treat a person right. That's gone back thousands of years, between males and females. That's ancient. And if you don't treat them right, then you're on the wrong side. If you do, then you're on the right side. I mean, treat a person how you'd want to be treated.
Now, Todd, I know that you used to party a little bit when you were younger. Did you see any of this stuff go on? Did you see women being drugged or taken advantage of at parties or the workplace? Have you ever seen it?
No. Not my circles. And I wouldn't do it. No RGHB. No, that didn't even exist back then. People might have done a bunch of stupid shit, I mean, that's always possible. Goes on till this day. But no, I didn't see any of that. What's changed is it's a hypersensitivity towards any kind of advancement towards the females. That's what's going on. In some countries, you can't even do a cat call if a girl's walking down the street and you're on a construction site. And I'm only referencing that because it's illegal in some countries to whistle at a girl that's cute if you're on a construction site.
Yeah, that sort of behavior is really frowned on nowadays, where if you were to do that, say, back in the 1950s, it would be perfectly acceptable and normal.
Yeah, it would be like 30 guys just go, whoa, as the girl walked by.
Whoa,
That's
baby.
No longer acceptable.
Whoa,
Back
mama. Hey, foxy lady.
Old stuff like that. Back 1,000 years ago, the cavemen drugged their women home to the cave, supposedly.
They drugged them?
Drugged them. Well, Bill Cosby, there you go.
He is a little bit of a caveman.
That's crazy. It's right close to Halloween. You got anything really spooky to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, what's spookier than rape culture? You don't like this topic, do you, Todd? It's too icky for you, isn't it?
Well, I would. I'm not down with it.
Well, let me tell you something.
I wouldn't knock anybody out that was, yo, rape.
Yeah, let me share something with you, Todd.
That's violating someone else's total space and being and ultimate crime.
Well, let me tell you about something. I remember when I was in high school, some of the boys, they would come back to school with these stories like, oh, we were at a party last Friday night and we got Susie so drunk. She got so drunk that we formed a train outside of the bathroom door, and we all took turns. And oh man, that's Susie. She's a slut. She wanted it. She's a slut. What a dirty, disgusting girl. Oh yeah, we all did her. We banged her good. That's something that I ran into when I was in high school.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't run anybody telling stories like that, but.
So a situation's being created where there's a lot of alcohol being passed around. There's a girl that's getting so plowed with alcohol that she's probably blacking out. She probably doesn't know what's going on. She's being sequestered in the bathroom, and these guys are basically going in there raping her, and then afterwards they're victim shaming. They're calling her names and telling everybody that she's the bad one.
Well, Daniel, the stories are like 1,000 deep that happened.
Yeah.
It's on TV. I mean, those stories.
And I'm I'm not a liberal. I'm not a progressive.
So
I'm not a feminist or anything like that.
Your point is that they created a culture. Someone's created a culture.
Yeah, well, it's not.
Or there was a culture.
Yeah, it's more me confirming something that I always hear these liberal people talking about, which is rape culture, and at least in this specific, regarding this specific topic, I think hell yeah it exists because I've seen it, and I've had it right in front of me.
Well, it's not being regulated. Look at your FBI; they're looking into Russian probing on Trump. Russian probing.
Yeah, that's. I could go on about Trump all night, but
no, but I'm saying that your law enforcement highest levels looking into that. And yeah, what you're talking about, Daniel's a lot deeper.
But I think that this ties together because if you keep going up towards the top, that's kind of how it is. I mean, the guys immersed in the rape culture that are higher level would be like Weinstein, who's using his position of power to extract sexual favors from women in exchange for furthering their careers.
What you're talking about there is the way that the intelligence agencies would use their assets.
Yeah, that's something that is very true as well. There's
you can go into all the variations or whatever, but if it's people that are going to play some role, being controlled like that, yeah, you're talking about that.
Yeah, because if you arrange...
Remember the NKVD with the girls getting branded by the cult leader?
Yeah, exactly. Another great example.
Smallville.
Another great example, because what you had in that situation was all these rich elitist people using their money to, have power over these cult members that were being lured into this cult through various psychological tactics, and basically having their own human slaves, which is just, it's something that you would think would go on in hell. Like that's what.
Here's the connection that keeps going. They once they got them in, you got to go get 5 more people to come back to the cult in that one. Remember?
Yeah.
They had to recruit. It was a pyramid scheme. We're going to get you rich, and they slowly feed these girls in from rich families.
That's something that we mentioned earlier, where if one person gets caught that's part of one of these cults or circles, they push all the blame onto one person and one person gets busted. But in reality, there's all kinds of big shot people involved.
Oh, it's got to be like one guy, takes the fault. It's probably the guy at the top that's being worshipped and given grapes and being fed grapes. When it all goes down, like Jim Jones.
Yep, exactly.
When it all goes down, he's dead.
And that's what a lot of these cult sort of things are. They're just pyramid schemes, so one guy can kind of lord over this group and get all these sexual favors from his followers and money.
But notice the similarities, though, where it's always the same kind of tactics, mind control techniques being involved there, and there's that exists. I mean, that's on record that they've done that. That's been done. Not our government necessarily, but many other just outside people have done it, supposedly, right?
Yeah, but so let's put that aside for a second. There's something else I wanted to talk about, and this is kind of a Halloween-related thing. He just came out with a new song. I wanted to talk about Marilyn Manson.
Right on.
Yeah, Marilyn Manson.
Ugly bugger. Spooky looking.
Yeah,
I went to the Halloween store, and I swear to God, there's this giant clown they had there that's like 9 feet tall. It's really cool. And the face is Marilyn Manson, just like, whoa! That was spooky.
Well, check this out. When I was in high school, I knew girls that thought Marilyn Manson Well, you probably think I went to some like crazy fucked up high school, but I knew girls that
Totally.
thought Marilyn Manson. No, that's just how it is nowadays. But I knew girls that thought Marilyn Manson was like the cutest guy ever. Like that's the symbol for that. That's what a man. That's a beautiful man. That's what a handsome man looks like. Is Marilyn Manson.
It's really strange. My sister thought Rob Halford was attractive.
Who the hell's that?
And she was Judas Priest lead singer.
Oh, he's gay, isn't he?
I know, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, Joe, he's attractive. It's one of those.
But you know what's funny about that? Not to go off topic, but that was an example of the fan base pretty much knew that he was gay, but they didn't really care. They just liked the music, and they just kind of let him do his thing.
Totally.
And that was way back in the day. That was long before that sort of thing was even remotely accepted.
Oh, there was a bunch of them.
Yeah, that's true.
The biggest bands and singers, they were gay, and they just hit it, and it was just all kind of schmoozed over. Yeah.
And,
that was the second British, and Daniel, that was the second British invasion. The first one was in the late 60s. The second one was with the punk building up to the metal.
Yeah, that is true.
Changing the consciousness. So by the time you rolled around in the 90s and got into whatever music was popular, the corporations had already figured out their next mind control thing to push you closer to the one world government.
Well, okay, so earlier with William, we were talking about how these cults and secret societies and satanic cults and stuff, they're pretty much all mind control. Well, Marilyn Manson, he was actually given a special title by the Satanic Church, and the Satanic Church, Marilyn Manson is an admitted Satanist, and the Satanic Church, one of the things that they say is they actively go out and spread a certain type of propaganda. They try their best to turn people onto Satanism and onto satanic values. And Marilyn Manson actually uses a lot of specific imagery and symbolism and certain tactics, a lot of tribal sort of stuff. I'm sure you would agree with this because you bring this up all the time, the tribal connection to mind control. It seems like you have a lot of that going on with Marilyn Manson and his fan base.
Well, I always bring up anthropology. What I learned about, like studying anthropology is that primitive civilization, how they lived. And I just compare them to how we live, But with Marilyn Manson,
Well, he was a shock rocker.
Do you think that's show, or do you think that's real? Because he wants to sell albums and pretend that he's as big and weird and evil as he can, so sell more albums to people that are into that, right?
Yeah, I think it's
probably to a degree.
Yeah, I think it's probably both. I'm sure that he wants to make money off his fan base and be successful like we all do, but at the same time, I really do feel that I suppose you could say that he's kind of standing up for the kids that get bullied, the freaks, the outcasts, and kind of standing up to the Bible Belt sort of mentality.
I'm going to tell you something. I had a realization. I've listened to shows. I listen to podcasts all the time, Daniel. And since we're getting close to Halloween, they were doing the Salem witch trials. Witch trials. And that story's come up a lot. The horror of the Salem witch trials was there was no due process. And they were just killing people because you were accused of putting a spell on somebody.
I don't know, Todd. Do we really know that for sure? I mean, that's what they say nowadays to explain the whole thing, but can we be sure that those weren't like real witches they were killing that were like actually doing what they were being accused of?
Some of them might have been, yeah, because let me tell you what was going on. In the 16th, 1700s, the first people that came to the United States brought old, like folk religion with them, mixed with Christianity. And King James was just pushing the King James Bible over in England. And so there were things that people brought from older things in England, older traditions, that the church didn't approve of. And they were folk traditions and magic that was counter. The first people that came to the United States, the first so-called Christians, were pretty crazy. And they started the Salem witch trials based upon old crazy Christian groups that hadn't quite fallen into the Protestant tradition.
Yeah, it's a little bit. It's kind of weird because
I'm just saying that
when you look into actual. Go ahead, Todd. I'm sorry.
History has pockets where people go crazy with the religion interpretations, religious interpretations, especially when the state's working with the local religion. That's all. Sorry, Daniel.
No worries.
We were talking about witches. Witches were gathering in New York.
Well, my whole thing is that there could be another side to this. Maybe there were witches, and maybe these witches were really doing a lot of bad things. And it's just now, in modern times, we look back and we're like, there's no such thing as magic. There's no such thing as sorcery or witches. Surely they must have been killing these innocent people and these innocent women. But if we were actually to go back in time, for all we know, these witches were riding around on brooms, laughing hysterically, eating children, cooking them in big cauldrons, doing all kinds of nasty things.
Very, very possible, yeah.
Todd, I put a curse on you. I put a spell on you.
Oh, please don't.
And now you're mine.
I put a spell on you.
I put a spell on you.
You're mine.
Now you're mine.
That's that classic jazz song from the
No,
very earliest. I put a spell on you.
Of course, I'm just kidding. People out there that don't understand that this is a comedy show. So
because you're mine. Dun 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 boom. Dun dun dun.
No.
Dun 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 bum bum bum.
And there's a song that goes Black Magic Woman.
Oh, Black Magic Woman. I remember that one.
What are some other
Black Magic?
What are some other
there's Santana. Santana did because you're a Black Magic Woman.
Oh, okay.
Is that the name?
Yeah.
Black Magic Woman, Santana. And then there was
Roxanne, you don't have to put on that red light. Roxanne, you don't have to sell yourself to the night.
Oh, God.
Roxanne.
And those guys are English, though, Daniel.
Oh,
you
what a
don't
great
have
song.
to put on the red light. You don't have to
Oh, my God. What a great
put on
song.
the red light.
Well, what that used to mean was that prostitutes, they'd put a red light inside of their room, and what that symbolized was that they were a hooker or a prostitute.
No, they were available.
Oh, yeah, they were
put the
available.
regular light on when they're not available and the red light on when they are.
You walk right in and they got them legs spread.
God, that's horrible. That was back in the 80s. And hope things have progressed since then. I doubt they have.
But anyways, so, okay, Marilyn Manson. So he used to perform oral sex on his male bandmate during concerts. He did it at least once.
No way. All right. I'm not saying he didn't. I'm just saying, yow.
Ozzy
Osbourne
I've
bit
looked
the
into
head
this
off a
and-
bat in Texas
Yeah.
in one of his concerts, got rabies shots. because of it.
Yeah, I
Somebody threw a bat on stage. He's like, yo, during one of his songs.
Yeah, that's true. I've looked into that too, but I looked into that Marilyn Manson thing, and people seem to be pretty split on whether or not he actually did it. But it seems that the stronger opinion is that stuff actually happened, and he was really into the shock sort of stuff, especially early in his career.
So there's people pushing it. If you know, like bands pushing it, I think that's the whole gimmick. I think that's their whole gimmick. If they don't put out a shock record, they're not going to get the contract.
If you watch some of his music videos, very heavy in symbiology, very heavy.
Intense, and it looks like a magical battle between the Christian belief system and his belief system.
Between Donny Osmond and Marilyn Manson.
Well, if you watch one of those videos, he's got Johnny Depp starring in it.
Oh yeah, you're right. You know what? I found out that
that's a major production.
Yeah,
that's not a video.
He actually worked on that movie. I think it's called The Ninth Gate with Johnny Depp. Like they're friends, and they were both involved in that.
It was one of the craziest, coolest movies ever made, in my opinion.
Oh, you like that one?
Ninth Gate's one of my favorites. The movie's based on one of the best actors of all time, Frank Langella. He's a rich old guy, and he hires Johnny Depp to find this book. And there's only 3 of them known to exist in the whole world, and it was written in the 1650s. It was so cool. He's like, so I need this book. That's why I'm hiring you. Go get it. Here's whatever amount of money you need. Find that book.
I'll give you all my money. Just give me that damn book.
Yeah, I'll pay whatever it's worth. But he shows him his library, Daniel, and it's like a bunch of old books, air-conditioned in their own sealed chambers because they're so important to him.
But you know what? Cool. You know what, Todd? Not to pull you off on a tangent, but I really believe that some of those books do have some kind of powers. Like I've read certain esoteric, magic, occult sort of books, and I felt changed afterwards. Like I felt like my consciousness was drastically changed. Like my whole reality was different.
No, there's books that hold extreme power for especially people that are into that thing and searching for them.
Yeah, if I wasn't so lazy, I mean, I have a bunch of them on my computer in PDF format. I got a bunch of them on my shelf. If I wasn't so lazy, I'd probably have all sorts of powers by now.
Well, it's more of a, I don't know what it's more of a, is it aliens? Is it alien technology that's old, that's putting out beams of information that's connecting people connected to back then? It's getting really strange now and spooky.
Yeah, you know I think you're right about that.
Part is,
what's that,
Daniel? They're admitting that this place is all corrupt and we're here, and you're trapped at the bottom of it.
Yeah,
they're admitting that it's all corrupt and we're here.
Yeah, that's what I say a lot. I mean, people they ask me like, "Oh, or they'll say to me, Daniel, you're a conspiracy theorist," and stuff like that. I'll just be like, you know what? There was a time when I was a theorist and a time when I was wondering if this stuff was real, but I'm 7 years past that. Or I'm at the point now where I just tell people, look, they don't even try to hide it anymore. It's right in front of your face. Just because you don't want to see it doesn't mean that it's not really there. They don't try to hide it. It's on Wikipedia. It's all you have to do is look at it. It's just people don't even look at it. They don't even turn their heads. They don't even make eye contact with it. They can't even see it. It's right in front of their faces.
Yeah, they just shrug.
Who cares? Who cares if the Illuminati owns my soul? Who cares?
I hear you.
They just care about beer and humping and Sunday football.
Well, that's part of what humans do, but
go Seahawks.
Another part of what humans do is try to survive. So if they can reroute their survival mechanism.
Well, no,
Make 'em
okay, no,
fall
well,
asleep.
I agree with that,
There
and I
was a
disagree with
story-
that. I agree with
there
that,
was
and
a
I disagree
story
with
last
that.
week. There was a story last week. It was on
I'm gonna
Clyde's
go.
show.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I forgot what I was gonna say.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
Pardon
I'm
me.
serious. I'm high. I forgot what I was gonna say. Like that was 1 second too long. I lost it. Go ahead. No, I forgot.
Last
Go ahead.
night on Clyde's show, I listened to Clyde's show the next day every day. There was a story in India of where like 100 people got plowed into by a train because they were watching a giant effigy of a demon being burnt.
What?
In India. In India. This was on his show last night. It probably happened on the full moon, which was 2 nights ago. I don't remember. Moon's very full right now. It's a very strange period. But anyways, Clyde said that the train just plowed through all these people because they were busy staring at a burning effigy, and they didn't realize they were standing on the train track, I guess. They were so mesmerized by the burning effigy of a demon.
Well, there's something to be said about that stuff because the Nazis, back when they were having, not that they even called themselves Nazis was a propaganda word that came about later on. The Third Reich, they had these giant effigies that they'd burn. Like they'd have a giant swastika made out of torches, and they'd have other types of symbols that they'd light on fire in front of millions of people, all the people in the entire country, how many lived in there at the time, and that was to burn those symbols into the mind.
You can look at those videos and see that they were practicing and perfecting mind control.
Oh, yes.
The only place you see that here now, Daniel, is at the football games, the biggest ones, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm...
Only they're missing the burning...
Are you into football at all, Todd?
Thing.
Are you into football?
No.
You hate it?
I used to watch it.
Oh, okay.
I'm a sports guy. I know all the rules and used to love it until I realized the country's going into the toilet. And I kind of said, until things get straightened around, I'm going to try to pay attention to things that make more sense and are more important.
Wait, do you guys have a team?
No. We're that state that got left out of everything. Like every state around us has a team except for us. We're that kid that got left out of the basketball game, the last pick. Utah, nobody wants them.
Well, wait a second. Don't you have a basketball team?
We have a basketball team, Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
That's number one.
Oh, everybody loves basketball down there, right?
Well, I'm just saying, Jazz is the number one team in the world.
Yeah, I mean...
the Utah Jazz is the baddest. Carl Malone and...
Oh, Carl Malone, the mailman.
Stockton.
The mailman.
The mailman. They stole that. Chicago, Michael Jordan. That was all stolen. That's back when I used to watch sports, Daniel, and care about that. The gladiator events.
The gladiator events. Are you
the
not
modern-day
entertained?
Gladiatorial. Yeah, it's Hulk Hogan against
the Ultimate Warrior.
Piper.
Rowdy Piper. Chew bubblegum and kick ass.
You know what I mean? I stopped watching that.
Do you watch any sort? Do you watch pro wrestling? Do you watch UFC?
I went to a party back in the 80s. I went to a party where I'm like, fucking all-star wrestling isn't real. This shit isn't real, and Hulk Hogan was big. And there was two wrestlers in there that were about 6.5 feet tall. And they were going on, and I'm like, they're not real. And fuck, next thing you know, Danny, they were going to pile driving these two fucking wrestlers that really do hurt each other. Where Hulk Hogan isn't.
Wait, what were these
So I
guys
never
doing
did that
exactly?
again.
Were they pile drove you?
What's that?
They did it to you?
No, they were gonna.
Well, that's how it was back
Because
then.
I told them it wasn't real.
Yeah,
It's not real. Those guys are just, they're tapping out. They've already practiced this, like a dance routine.
well, the rule was
Michael
back
Jackson,
then.
that'll get you
Todd,
killed.
the rule was back then that you had to protect the business. So if anybody was challenging and saying wrestling wasn't real, you'd have to like put them in a hold or beat them up or something so that you could protect the business
Choke
and
them
nobody
out.
would know it's fake. Yeah, exactly. Choke them out. Like Hulk Hogan
And
did
that's
it.
what
Hulk Hogan did it to that one guy on his TV show, and then he sued him. I can't remember what his name is, but he like put him in a chokehold, and then the guy's head flipped backwards. And let's see.
He didn't talk anymore.
Yeah. Let me find the guy's name. Sued Hulk Hogan. Oh man, there's so many lawsuits with Hulk Hogan, and how am I ever gonna find this?
Well, and then his daughter. Didn't his daughter get involved with some... Yeah.
Richard Belzer.
No way.
Yeah.
Richard Belzer, the comedian from New York.
Yeah, he used to have a show, and he was making fun of Hulk Hogan.
And Hulk Hogan choked him out.
He choked him out for real. And then his head
Oh my
flopped.
God, that is crazy.
Check this out, though. After he choked him out, the guy's head flops backwards, and it, like, slams against the floor behind him, and his head starts bleeding on live TV.
I love Richard Belzer. How dare Hulk Hogan do that? Fuck that guy.
Well, he sued him, and he got a lot of money, so he won out in the end.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I think
I love Richard Belzer. Richard Belzer's funnier than hell. He played in Law and Order. Remember he was on Law and Order?
I never saw that show. I've heard him on Stern.
It was a TV show that ran for 30 years, Daniel, on TV. And
Oh, yeah, I remember Law and Order, yeah. That was very
Law
very
and Order.
show,
He was
yeah.
one of the detectives, yeah. They hired Ice-T, too, the rapper. Remember the rapper? Ice-T?
Oh, yeah, Ice-T, yeah, very famous.
They hired him to be on Law and Order.
Well, hey, Todd, I just realized this is totally random, but I just realized I've been on the phone with you for, 40 minutes, and I didn't intend to do that, so you always get me, buddy.
Yeah, I didn't mean to keep you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mean to keep you. I'm just glad to hear your voice again.
Well, no, it's just because I have so much...
we're out here listening and
Yeah.
want to contribute.
I have so much fun talking to you, so I lose track of time.
Yeah, it's too cool, my man. Sounds good.
All right,
We'll
buddy.
see you on the next show.
All right, I'm gonna run my gums a little bit more, and I'm gonna close out the
Please
show.
do.
I gotta keep listening though.
Tear this thing up. Guide us all.
Keep listening.
Be with you.
Good night. And that's Todd. Todd the Bod. Always good to talk to him. He calls in every show, and I don't know. People love him. I always get positive feedback about Todd. So we just let him call in, or I just let him call in. Why do I say we? Do I have an alien symbiote attached to me? Am I Venom? So, let's see here. I want to get an exact date before I start running my mouth about this. Let's see. You know what? I am not sticking to the agenda at all. I am not sticking to the agenda. I didn't do the mind-blowing moment of the day. I had a bunch of news stories I was supposed to talk about, a bunch of topics, and I'm just totally going off on different stuff. But I did want to talk about the 5G network. We've talked about that quite a bit on this show. Oh, God, I need a glass of water. Ugh. The thing is, when you're in radio or podcasting, you got to take sips of water every so often. Otherwise, you start talking like this. Succotash. Oh, yeah. I'm sure that was disgusting. I could psychically hear just a collective ew out there. So, this is my new voice for the second or the third hour of the show. The longer the show goes, the deeper my voice gets. By the very end of the show, it's going to be like this. I'm John B. Wells. We're here aboard the mothership this evening. I'm John B. Wells. John B. That was a terrible impersonation. I do apologize. I love you, John. I love you, John B. I love you. I'm not making fun of you. I wouldn't do that. You know, I wasn't going to say this. I'm supposed to talk about 5G, but one thing that I really realize is I have not been fulfilling my promise to you guys. I've been second guessing myself. I've been editing my words. I've been trying to go back and patch things up and apologizing for things that I've been saying. And that's another reason I went on the break, because I realized I was not being extreme enough. I was being extreme, popular word in the 90s. I was being extreme, but I was not being extreme enough. I was not being the real me. I was still on a deep level. I was afraid of what people think. I was afraid of pissing off the feminists. I was afraid of pissing off the liberals. I was afraid of pissing off the Trumpers. Just all these different groups. It's fuck that. Fuck that shit. Fuck that. Fuck that. Suckering succotash. Fuck that. I'm not going to kowtow to anybody anymore. I'm done. Forget it. I'm throwing in the towel as far as that goes. I'm giving up on giving up. I'm not going to let anybody tell me how I can talk on this show. I don't care about all that stuff that went down. I don't care about it. I don't care. I will just keep doing this show any way I can. I don't care if I build this whole huge audience or whatever. I'm just going to keep doing it. And I'm not going to give a shit about offending anybody. If I already wasn't giving a shit, it's time to kick it up to like 100. If I was at 10, we're going to kick it up to 100. Because I am tired of it. I'm tired of anybody having any influence on the words that are coming out of my mouth. Let's put it that way. I made a promise to you guys that I would be real, that I would be unfiltered. I promised you that I would not hold back, that this show would be completely off the rails. And I did my best, but I realized things need to improve. We need to kick it up. There's no reason to care what anybody thinks. And you know what? Fuck Donald Trump. You know, I was the biggest Trump supporter in the world at some point. And so long I have been afraid to go back on that or to criticize the man or criticize the administration, because I know that a lot of my fans are huge Trump supporters. Huge Trump supporters. Some of my very close personal friends are huge Trump supporters. And the idea that I was so into it, and maybe some of them I even got them into it, and that I would turn around and criticize Donald Trump, or I would say things negative about him, that really pisses a lot of people up. Pisses a lot of people off. They'll tell me, that's not cool. That's not cool. But I got to be real. I'm sorry. I do not believe in that anymore. I was very close to joining the Republican Party and becoming this huge Republican. I mean, you heard me talk about it on this show. But the more and more that I got into it, the more and more I just realized it was all one big manipulation. I've gone over this stuff. Before the break, I was going over this stuff deeply. It's manipulation. It's left versus right, red versus blue politics. And it's manipulation. It doesn't mean anything. It lost its meaning to me. Being a conservative, it lost its meaning. They're just two opposing forces used to manipulate us all. And like I said, after the Trump administration, after we have another 4 years of Trump, they're right now they're in the process of manipulating all the young people. And then you're going to have this huge uprising leading into the election after this next one, which we know for sure Trump will win because every president does 8 years, that's when the socialist revolution is going to happen. And the only reason the right is rising and pushing so hard is to create this whole other opposing spectrum, this oncoming tide. Once the kids that are 16 or 20 and become voters, or 20-something in the future, we're going to see this huge push towards socialism. It's already, the seeds are already being planted. There's this woman, let's see, her name's like Cortez, Octavia, what the hell is that woman's name? I'm Googling. Oh, there she is. I think I've talked about her before, but Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This woman is probably going to be like the first female president. And if not her, somebody else. But there's this huge push towards socialism for these young people. And the only reason the right is in control now and the conservatives are in control now is so they can pull this huge troll job and do their gaslighting and cause the left to become incited so that when the next presidential term comes around, the people like George Soros and the people behind him, they're going to have what they want, which is more of a socialist sort of open border political climate in this country. It's obvious. I mean, just look at what's gone on. The Democrats, and they call themselves the progressivists, and you have this whole idea that nobody would even use the word socialism 15 years ago, but now there's a lot of Democrats that openly call themselves socialists. I mean, it's obvious. You'd have to be a fool to not see what's going on. But this thing about Trump being against the Illuminati or against the elite, it's just not true. He is them. I mean, he's not them exactly, but they pull his strings. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. I mean, look at this, for example. This isn't evidence of that. There's something else I could go into, which would be very clear-cut evidence of that, but I've done that already, and this is something else. But this is from thinkprogress.org. I'm getting into the news a little bit here. It says, Trump picks former Monsanto executive to lead U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So basically what happens is the Trump administration assigns this woman, do I have to use her name? Aurelia Skipwith? I guess she used to work for Monsanto. And you guys know what Monsanto is, right? It's this evil corporation that goes around fucking with the genetics of seeds out there and putting patents on seeds and just totally screwing up the environment. I mean, there's whole groups that are against Monsanto. It's very well known. Very well known. I mean, it's obvious that this company is very evil. And one of the reasons I got off the Obama train, yes, I voted for Obama. The reason I got off his train was because he was supporting Monsanto. He was signing legislation to protect Monsanto. And so that's why this is particularly disturbing to me. But the Trump administration, or Donald Trump himself, it said President Donald Trump announced late Monday that he intends to nominate a former Argo chemical industry official to lead the Department of the Interior's Fish and Wildlife Services. So he's putting somebody that worked at this evil corporation basically in charge of our forests and wildlife. That's not a good idea. And then it says the Trump administration actually has a trend of filling top environmental regulatory positions, which that position is, that she would be having, with officials from companies regulated by the agency. So it says that the Trump administration has a trend of filling top environmental regulatory positions with officials from companies regulated by the agency. Do you guys realize how bad that is? Like, this is what? how can I say that this is good in any way? I mean, this is obvious corruption, and it's evidence, and it's right in front of your faces. I mean, you could argue, is that trend exaggerated? Are there excuses? I mean, I don't know. It's pretty clear cut. But, I mean, it's the truth. What do you want from me? I mean, you want me to lie to you? You want me to pretend? You want me to tell you what you want to hear? That Trump's a hero? I'm not going to do it because that wouldn't be me being real. Fuck the Democrats. Fuck the Republicans. The Republicrats. Fuck them both. I am voting for Adam Kikesh. Adam Kikesh, I fully support 100%. My man, Adam Kikesh. Please vote for Adam Kikesh. Adam Kikesh, famous for being accused of looking like Jonathan Brandis, being the adult MK Ultra version of him. We found out that, of course, is not true. But I'm off that Republican shit. I mean, oh man. You know, another thing, I mean, this isn't why I stopped. I stopped because I realized it was manipulation. I'm just being real with you. I stopped because I realized it's manipulation. But also, I looked at what was on the far right. The far right. And I saw some legitimate racism there. And I know that's the far right, and that doesn't represent conservatives or Republicans in general. But I certainly don't vibe with any of that stuff. Just like I don't vibe with the crackpots on the left. And honestly, the left is kind of worse right now. I mean, let's be real about that. You know, some of these people that are wearing vagina hats, that's just obnoxious. Don't wear a vagina hat. But I'm done with both. I'm done with the red. I'm done with the blue. I don't care if you voted all red. I don't care if you voted all blue. I've been seeing that on Twitter. Oh, I voted all blue. I voted all red. Pat self on back. Pat self on back. What do you want? You want a cookie? Here, have a cookie. You voted all red. Here, have a cookie. Oh, you voted all blue. Here, have a cookie. You're special. Boop. You're special. Have a cookie. I'm off of that stuff. It's manipulation. And you should be too. That's what I believe. Yeah. Just drop some truth. Anyways, I've also been having a lot of good debates with some folk out there. Some good debates and some bad debates. Good debates and some bad debates. I've been debating a lot of people about the flat earth. Yeah, he said it. Flat earth. Does he really believe it? Does he? Is it a giant troll job? Is it real? Is it fake? So many questions, not enough answers. If you really want to drive yourself nuts, I'm telling you, get really deeply into flat earth. It'll just destroy your world. Once you realize how little evidence there is for a globe earth, unless you believe all those CGI pictures and videos, of course. But people get so mad. It's just such a point of contention. Like, if you go on social media and just talk about flat earth and just go out there and say, hey, earth is flat. Here's why. Here's why. What really frustrates them is when you can match them blow by blow. Not a whole lot of people can debate flat earth. And I'm not claiming that I really can, but I've been kind of holding my own. I've been kind of holding my own lately. Like, I feel like that really can make people mad when they can't win a debate about the earth being round or flat. I mean, and winning, of course, is subjective. Like, what's winning exactly? Whoever looks stupider or whoever looks less stupid or whoever walks away first, or, how do you define that? But I think it frustrates people when those arguments kind of hold their weight. I think that kind of bothers people because it messes with them. It shouldn't be so hard, right? It shouldn't be so hard to prove to somebody that the earth is round. It shouldn't be so hard to... And why are there more and more flat earthers coming up all the time? Is it that people really are just dumb and they want to believe in Bronze Age science, as someone put? They want to believe in Bronze Age science? Or is it that there's some arguments here and some things that once you see them, it's like, what's going on here? Maybe you should look into that if you're not privy to the flat earth yet. Some people get so mad though, like, I swear I don't even want to like debate people about it anymore because people get too nasty. They get too angry and aggressive, and it's like, come on, it's not a big deal. It's just a flat plane. And then when you don't like get all worked up like that and you're just like, no, I'm sorry, this is what I believe. I've seen the balloons go up, I've seen the footage, it just looks flat. 200,000 feet in the air, just flat in every direction. I suppose if I went up there and I saw a big round thing, then I would be convinced, but I'm just gonna keep an open mind. I'm sorry. And by open mind, I'm not saying that I necessarily believe the earth is flat, but I have reason to believe that NASA, for one, lies to us all the time. Nothing they say is true. It might not be flat, it might not be round, it might be entirely different, but whatever it is, they're lying to us about it. That I'm sure of. And so should you. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about 5G. So, let's see here. So 5G, where'd my article go? 5G network is launching in the next few weeks. This is AT&T, the big cell phone provider, AT&T, smartphone provider. Yeah, so looks like within the next few weeks, the beast rises. The great technological beast, the grid, the matrix, the rise of the matrix. In just a few weeks. Aren't you excited? The rise of the matrix. If it's not already here. So 5G is going to be 100 times faster than the old internet. The consumer in me is like, oh, this is going to be awesome. I'm wondering about the gaming possibilities. And then the truther in me is like, oh shit, here it is. Mark of the beast imprint on the gums of an infant. Mark of the beast imprint on the gums of an infant. That's a Jedi Mind Tricks quote right there from one of their albums. Mark of the beast imprint on the gums of an infant. AT&T says its 5G network is launching in the next few weeks. AT&T promised at the beginning of the year that it would be launching a real standards-based 5G network at the end of 2018, and during its latest earnings call, CEO John Donovan confirmed those plans, promising that the network would be launching in the next few weeks. This would be an authentic next-generation 5G network, unlike the 5G Evolution network that rolled out last year, which essentially amounted to the same 4G LTE improvements that its competitors were doing under some creative branding. Well, that's stupid. If we're going to get it, let's at least get the real thing. Again, given that AT&T had already promised the launch of its 5G network sometime before the end of the year, and the fact that the end of the year is a few weeks away, I know, right? Donovan's commitment to launching isn't huge news, especially given that AT&T has already been testing its network since February. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, you get the point. Sorry for all the coughing and spittiness. I think it's been so long since I've been on air that I think my gums are weak. I lost some of my radiocardio. I'm going to have to start working out again. But it's here. It's here. This 5G cancer-causing, brain-melting, holy shit technology. It's here, and it's going to completely change our entire reality. Make no mistake. I'd say as soon as it's, 5 years from now when it's actually everywhere and everybody has it, There's going to be a lot more people getting cancer. There's going to be a lot more people, just feeling weird, dizzy. You'll see it. I've seen some videos of people taking radiation counters up to regular cell phone towers, the old kind, the ones that are within the more safer spectrum, the non-super high frequency radio waves, or whatever they are, radioactive waves, the 5G waves. When those things are flying around, and these people have gotten some very scary results in residential areas. High numbers. And basically what that means is if you're the unlucky sap that has to walk by there every day or live close, then you're going to probably get cancer. Or something bad is going to happen to you. That you can be damn sure of. Something awful is going to happen to you. And that's from the regular cell phone towers. So go figure. What do you think is going to happen when we go to 5G? It means your ass is going to get fried. You're going to get cooked like a damn hot dog. Because you are a hot dog. And you're going to taste like a hot dog after what happens to you. Ooh, Daniel, quit fear-mongering. Quit fear-mongering. What are you doing? You sound like Alex Jones. Quit fear-mongering. I don't even know what I'm doing. So, in summary, rape culture is real. Marilyn Manson is incredibly freaky. And you know what we haven't done? Hold on. Ugh. You know what we haven't done? You know what we haven't done? The mind-blowing moment of the day. Oh, man, you're blowing my mind. You're blowing my mind, man. You're blowing my goddamn mind. So, whoa. Almost dropped my phone. I dropped everything. 5G. So, today's mind-blowing moment of the day is, I'd have to say the smiley faces being satanic. Who would figure, right? I didn't know that. Me. Daniel. Me. I didn't know that. So that means it's major. Because I know like everything about the occult by now. So the fact that I didn't know that, that's pretty cool. I learned something new with every show, with every day of my existence. I'm going to keep learning, because even if you feel like you know everything, I guarantee you've just scratched the surface. You've just scratched the surface. You gotta keep reading and keep listening and keep learning until you explode. That's how you do it. You explode. And every time you cause one of these explosions, you get a little smarter, a little quicker on your feet. Next thing you know, you can be a god like me. Oh, whoops. Did I just do that? Did I do that? Oh my god. This show's going to piss some people off. That can be sure. But the smiley faces, I thought that was pretty cool. Let's see here. I'm thinking about that caravan. One thing that I don't understand about that is I'm seeing these long lines and waves of people. And I'm thinking to myself, what happens when you have to take your twice-a-day dump? What happens when you have to pop a squat and take a shit, is what I'm asking. I don't understand how they make that happen. Do they, like, run off to the side and do the duty and then just, like, run really super fast to catch up with their family and try to, like, find a needle in a haystack? Is that how they do it? Do they wear diapers? Are they carrying, like, porta potties with them? How is it that they are pooping? I heard the caravan's not going to get here for, like, another month. And for those of you that live in your grandparents' attic, if you don't know what's going on out there in the world, there's a huge caravan of people from South America, Middle America, Mesoamerica, Central America. That's what it's called. And Mexico, and they're all just forming this huge, giant serpent of people, like this giant wave of people that are all walking as this giant mob, this giant group. It's like an army, and they're just coming here, and they're going to come in through San Diego or Texas, most likely San Diego. It's crazy. You got to see the pictures. But that's the big news. That's the whole thing. They're saying George Soros is funding it. There's videos of people walking around like handing money to the people walking. They're handing them money. And, oh man, am I still recording? Yeah, I'm still recording. Okay, good. I know I'm live, but am I recording? That'd be bad. But I don't understand how they go to the bathroom. That's my question. Is why are they doing this? And how do they go to the bathroom? I'm thinking behind the whole procession, there's got to be just like Hershey Kiss drops behind them of shit piles. Right? Kind of like in India. Who knows? Let's see, what else do we have here? I had this weird thought. I don't even know why I want to say this, but I was thinking of like when I was in high school or when I was in junior high school. Wait, can I say this? I was that age when I was that age, so I guess it's okay. But I remember the thing that was like really sexy that I thought was really hot and sexy was when you were in class, right? And there'd be like the pretty girl, like the cheerleader that was sitting in front of you or ahead of you a few seats or something like that. And she'd be like leaning forward and you could just see the tip of her underwear in the back. Like you could just see the line. I remember when I was a teenager, I thought that was just the greatest thing in the world. I was like, oh man, I hope I get to sit behind like so-and-so, or I hope I get I get positioned in like the right place so I can get a view like that. That was like a major thing for me. I just remember thinking that. Oh my god, that's probably just the stupidest thing. But it's funny how when you're that age, like the simplest, like innocent thing is just the greatest. Bombs. So bombs are being sent out to Hillary Rodham Clinton and Barack Obama and George Soros. That's disturbing. A lot of people are saying that the bombs are fake, but regardless of if they're fake or real, just the idea that any of that is going on is so just strange. Like these times that we live in, they're just so strange. To think that somebody would send a bomb to Hillary Clinton, that's terrible. I think she's a bad person. I think she's an evil person, and I suppose you could say if anybody deserved to get mailed a bomb, it'd probably be her, but that's not right. That's not. She needs to go to jail. She needs to go to prison. She needs to go to jail, and she needs to be tried for what she did. And let's not forget that Donald Trump also promised, well, I guess you could say he didn't promise us, but he told us that he was going to investigate Hillary, and he said that he was going to look into it. And then as soon as he gets elected, like literally the next day, oh, I'm not going to do anything to Hillary. But up until that point, you're going to. So I gave you my vote, and then as soon as you're elected, you say that you're not going to go after her. Well, that's only a little suspicious, right? That's only a little suspicious. Like, what happened? What happened to all that bravado? Now she's your friend? That doesn't make any sense. But, ultimately the truth is that they serve the same masters. The Clintons, Donald Trump, all of these people, George Soros, Elon Musk, Alex Jones, they all work for the same group. Maybe not directly, but somewhere up the chain, they all work for the same group. That big eye in the sky. Sauron. Skynet. It. The movie It? Yeah, I'm literally saying It. Cthulhu. Satan. There's so many different names for it. Whatever that big evil is, they all work for that somewhere up the chain. And even on a physical earthly level, because they're directly working for the same people that have all the money, the same people that own all the banks, the same people that run all of those foreign councils, all those special scientific committees like the Jason Society, all those committees like the Club of Rome, the Trilateral Commission, the Council of Foreign Relations, Bohemian Grove, Bilderberg, all that shit, man. It's all the same group. It's all the same cast of characters. You got to take off the blinders. What you got was truth, but you got it twisted. There's always another layer. There's always another layer to the deception. And there's no shame in it. I mean, I was the biggest Trump supporter. I probably got him a lot of votes, but the truth is that there are no heroes in the presidency because they're all picked. And that's why you see these corporate favors and things like that. That's the payback. And that's why you see these wars in the Middle East and us bombing other countries. That's the payback, and that's the payoff for getting these people in office. Quit talking about politics, Daniel. That's boring. Quit talking about politics. Okay, voice in my head. Okay. I have had to put myself on Twitter restriction because I get way too addicted. Like, once you really get into Twitter, it's hard to pull yourself away. It's bad. It's like, hey, I got this big audience out there. All these people care about what I have to say. I'm so important. Next thing I know, I'm crashing into a telephone pole. No, I'm just kidding. But it's really a waste of time. Let's be honest. Like, if I pull myself off of Twitter, all of a sudden I start getting stuff done. All of a sudden my life starts improving again. You don't want to do that. You don't want to piss your life away on social media. It has its place. It has its place, ever more. But, when you get into these flat earth debates, it can be very draining. It can be very draining waking all these people up, doing the Lord's work in His name. Oh, God. So much fun we had this night. Did we not? So much fun. The return of End of Days Radio. The return of Daniel. The return. The new season. Oh, my heart's pounding. Why is that? Why is that? Why is that? We had a few other news stories. Here, hold on. One of these is kind of funny. Let's see. Let's do this real quick. So, killer clown tries to force himself into a car. From the boltonnews.co.uk. A driver was left terrified after a man wearing a killer clown mask tried to force his way into her car. The shocked motorist was stopped at the lights of a busy junction in North Benfleet when she noticed a vehicle pull up too close behind her. Reliving the ordeal on social media, she explained, "I just want to make people who are local to us aware that we had an incident on Tuesday night in our car. We were followed up to the Pound Lane lights near Sadler's Farm. I was unnerved straight away as the car behind me parked too close with high beams on. A guy got out and banged on my windows wearing a horror clown mask. Terrified is an understatement. We are okay, and it's been passed to the serious crime unit, but please be careful and lock yourselves in your cars. He tried my door, but I always locked them. The man wasn't bright, though, and left a fabulous set of fingerprints on my window. Please take care. The incident happened on Tuesday night, and the woman wanted to warn other drivers in the area. In a message shared on social media, she said, the appeal received widespread attention and has been shared, blah, 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 all over social media. I'm glad the woman is okay. This is the somebody that lives in the area said, I'm glad the woman is okay. I hope this thing does not become more regular ahead of Halloween. Blah, 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 blah. In 2016, several incidents of people wearing killer clown masks and committing pranks were reported across the country, including in Basildon, South End, and Pittsburgh. The trend seems to have returned for 2018 as Halloween approaches, with other incidents reported in Dartford, Kent, and Manchester this month. Wow. It is not known whether this was a prank or something more sinister. Essex police were contacted for comment, but were unable to respond by the time the echo went to press. Anyone with information is asked to contact Essex police on 101. So this damn clown, it tried to force its way into somebody's car. So close to Halloween, too. Very rude. Very rude behavior. I mean, that happened in the UK. I think that we can all surmise what would happen if that happened here. That clown would have a hole in him pretty quickly. Very, very scary. I mean, I do not carry a firearm with me, but I see people with them all the time. People are always pulling them out and showing them off. And those clowns just would not live very long around here. People are afraid of clowns, too. I mean, anywhere you go. Clowns are scary. If a clown was doing that to me, I don't know what I would do. I would probably just think it's somebody like trying to mess with me, but I mean, that's crazy. It's like, why would somebody try that hard to mess with you? That's just, ugh. Oh God, I got the creeps just thinking about that. I hate clowns. I hate those freaking scary clown masks too. Ugh. I just had to share that one. It seems the clown phenomena has returned. There's a lot of videos out there of what's called clowning, where somebody will put on a clown suit and walk around outside your security cameras so that the security cameras see you, and then you go back and look at them, and there's like footage of a freaking clown walking around your house. I think clowns are demonic through and through. Oh, another really awkward thing is, are you ever at the grocery store and you see a MILF, a woman with a kid that's like walking around and shopping, and then you're checking her out. I mean, her back is turned and she's looking at stuff on the shelf, and you sneak a peek, you check out the goods, and the kid's just staring at you like, why are you staring at my mommy? Isn't that the most awkward feeling? Like, that's like, oh no, I feel so bad. Like, what is that guy doing? You might as well just not even. Boy. You know what? I think I'm going to call it a day. I do like to usually go very, very long, as you all know. I always get good feedback about it. I always hear, whenever I start doing shorter shows, I always hear, oh, Daniel, could you please return to the really long format where you go on for like 3 to 5 hours, preferably 5? It seems like the more I do, the more people can't get enough. Like, who would think that anybody would want to listen to 5 hours of me? But apparently there's people out there that consider that to be pleasurable. So I try to do at least 3. And let's face it, half the show has a guest on it. So that's pretty easy to get through because it's usually somebody really interesting. Hell, this is End of Days Radio. And then the second half, we just sit here and chitter chat and jive back and forth and mix it up, riff back and forth. And we have fun. We have fun in these last days, these end times, these times of the rise of Lucifer and the Antichrist and the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Wait, hold on. The 4 horsemen. The 4 horsemen. Oh, sorry. I was trying to turn an effect on, but apparently that just isn't happening. I have to have that stuff preset. But I promise sound effects. No, I'm just kidding about that. I would never torture you guys with lame sound effects. So many radio shows and podcasts do that, and I'm not against it, but I think if you're going to have that, you should have a whole person doing that throughout the whole show and kind of running it in the background. I don't think you should sit there and push a button like, oh, hold on, let's stop everything so I can hit this button and everybody will laugh. I just don't think that that's of value. No. But hey, I've had enough. I'm tapping out tonight. I did want to do some plugs. So everybody go to endofdaysradio.com. Boy, I'm gassing hard. I'm tired. Hold on, let me get some water. Go to endofdaysradio.com for all your End of Days Radio needs. Go to endofdaysradio.com where you can see an updated upcoming schedule of the shows that we have to do. Oh man, I made it through that whole show. I'm so proud of myself. Here we are at the end. These last days, these last minutes of the show. Here we are. Go to endofdaysradio.com. If you'd like to donate to the show, feel free. As you know, the show is nonprofit, so when you donate, it does help quite a bit. It does help me make ends meet. It does help me keep this show running. It helps cover the expense, so I thank you very much. Donate whatever the show's worth to you. Donate $1, donate $2, donate $5, whatever it's worth to you. If you just want to listen and not donate, then that is perfectly fine. I am so thankful to have you out there listening. I'm thankful that you give a damn. I'm thankful that you find this information relevant to you. It probably means that you're not stupid. So if you're listening to this show, this is for you. And I'm tipping my glass to you as well. I'm patting you on the back. I'm giving you a very warm hug straight from Daniel, End of Days Radio. Because, once again, you guys, you are the wind beneath my wings. You are the reason why I do this show. In all honesty, when I can feel like I'm entertaining you or I'm providing you with some juicy content, something mind-blowing, something that will make you smarter, that will make you more relevant. If I can provide that to you, if I can plant a little seed out there, who knows, you might do something similar in the future. You might find yourself with some sort of blog or a podcast or something like that. And you will continue to carry that torch and keep that light lit, to keep those candles lit, so that we have some illumination, some true illumination, not the bad kind of illumination, but the true kind of light and knowledge. So we can have that. I hope that there's people out there that intend to keep that torch lit, keep that lamp burning throughout the darkness of the night. And one of these days, we are going to all get together. We are going to shine a light so bright that it illuminates the sky, illuminates the whole universe, our whole reality. And the shadows, they shall recede for 10,000 years, at least. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. My heart extends out to you. A special thank you to everybody that has helped me get to this point, for showing your support for the show through the ups and downs, the good times and the bad. All of you special folk out there who helped me keep this weight on my shoulders, helped me keep this this whole earth on my shoulders, help me holding the. You guys are helping me hold the entire world on my shoulders. You're helping me hold the universe up. That's what you're doing for me. You are the foundation of my existence and my determination to do this show. I know that sounded weird as fuck right now, but that's about as real of a thing I can say at this very moment. So thank you so much. Thank you again and again. My ongoing gratitude is probably boring at this point. So in clothing, I will tell you guys that I will be back doing this show from now on a very regular basis. Expect to have a new show each week. And we're going to continue on with a brand new season of End of Days Radio. And we're going to take it to a whole new level. I feel as fired up as I ever have. This show has reached a critical mass and has reached far and wide. And so many people out there know what End of Days Radio is. And so many people out there eat it up, every little bit of it. And I intend to provide. I intend to provide those little niblets for you guys. So stay tuned for those niblets. And I wish you a good night.
All is not lost, but Fuck yeah.